Welcome to another episode of Spoiler Talk, where we talk spoilers. This week, we watched Pirates of the Caribbean Trilogy. And so, Keiran, what do you think of Pirates of the Caribbean?
I love the Pirates of the Caribbean Trilogy.
Oh yeah.
I loved it when I was growing up. I remember seeing the first one. I remember what a revelation to everyone his Johnny Depp's performance as Jack Sparrow was. Mm-hmm. I then remember watching people turn on that performance over the course of the second and third film. And this time watching it, paid more attention to that to try to see what it was. I mean, people aren't wrong if enough people are saying the same thing. And watching people's reaction to this character and to this franchise over these films, you can pretty clearly see what occurred. The main thing with his performance over the films is that the first film presents this character it is so well thought out. Everyone involved in the production, the actor, the production team, the director, the screenwriter, everyone knows exactly who this character is, and every scene feels very motivated in taking this whirlwind of a character and throwing them into all of these situations. Yes. And over the course of the trilogy, I think they begin to lose sight of what it was that made this character so engaging, which is, I think, 50% performance and 50% the script. Yep. Really. The look of it, all of it, it's not 50-50, but it is mostly that. Yeah. It's like crazy new, we haven't seen a performance like this before. Pirates have not been in for a long time. Were they ever in?
Never.
Probably not.
No, because they're rapists and murderers and criminals.
Exactly. And
so you can't make them fun unless you somehow strip that away.
It's either so horrible and brutal that it's not something you really want to watch or think about, or it goes so far the other way into
too kid-friendly.
Yeah, cartoonish.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Where the parrot and the things that's all fun and too cartoony.
Yeah. And I think this movie, not only is it Johnny Depp's performance that kind of anchors the whole thing, that gives you the breath of fresh air, but you've got a really, really talented director in Gore Verbinski, who I think is just at his best. A lot of people shit on The Ring too, but I think the first Ring film is a really fantastic horror film that I think has been overlooked a lot because of trends in Hollywood, more than people considering just that movie on its own. Yeah. I think it's one of the rare movies that deserves a remake over its original, and takes the original and elevates it, and the injection of money into, having a bigger budget, elevate a lot of the scares and material. And it feels like this is what we should be doing. Yeah. And I think Gore Verbinski took what is essentially, let's take this Disney property that is a theme park ride and create a series of dioramas that we will craft into a feature film. And I can't imagine anyone thought this was going to work, so they just did it. They just did it. And the first movie works so well. It's basically a series of stereotypical pirate
things.
Yeah, we know
all the set pieces.
We know Tortuga. We know
Drunken Pirate.
We know Cursed Aztec Gold. We know
they've got the pirate treasure chest on top of a pile of gold at a secret location that's magical and shrouded in mist, and it's all cliche and over the top dramatic things.
But it's all done really, really, really well.
So tight.
They understand who every character is, how they interact with each other. Everything is just so tight and perfect. And I compare this movie, the first Pirates of the Caribbean, very much to the first Back to the Future movie, which is just a super tight, solid script where everything that is set up pays off, and it is almost the archetypal version of what broadly appealing Hollywood Disney feature film at its best can be.
Yeah, it's the perfect blockbuster action adventure. It's everything you want.
The action's great.
It's so good.
The characters are great. The script is great. The introductions to these characters are perfect. I mean, that's the difference between the first and second movie. And we'll get to 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are in a separate basket.
Yeah.
And there are so many things I love about them, but the things I love about 2 and 3 are different from the things I love about 1.
Okay. Yeah.
Where 1 is, I think, dipping its toe into the pirate mythology and eases you into it.
Yeah.
2 leaps in the deep end and takes the pirate mythology 2 and 3 take the pirate mythology all the way to the logical conclusions as far as you can.
But they're also really like extreme. Like the idea of ending the second movie with killing a character and then they just go and get him back from Davy Jones' locker. I mean, I love all of it, but the first movie, them being ghosts, it feels real. Yeah. Like the idea that he's like, I can't touch a woman, and his hand comes out in the thing, and you see a skeleton hand. I'm not like, he's a crazy ghost. I'm like, this tortured soul. Yeah. This evil man who's been, I don't know, he's so sympathetic. They're all fucking evil, but their plan is like, so like human and sympathetic where he just wants to be able to eat a fucking apple.
Yeah.
And that's so good. And I feel like even watching it, I forget. It's like, yeah, they're like undead skeleton zombie fucking pirate people. Cursed. It's really over the top, but the way it's just, I don't know, they make it feel real in a way that the others kind of really heighten. And I love 2 and 3, but there were moments where I'm watching it being like, this is the best bit of the movie. But this is probably where people are like, no, I don't want to go to a purgatory Davy Jones locker where it's all desert and it doesn't make any sense. But I'm like, I like this quite a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like...
the trippy, surreal stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it's real. I think the mythology they steep in the first 3 is like perfect. And then it boils to the final nth degree, which is Jack Sparrow talking to himself and Calypso Lady getting real big and exploding into crabs. And then the next ones, it's like, Blackbeard's a magic pirate with magic ropes. It's like, that's too much. And whatever, the 5th one is actually kind of... But it's like, yeah, the first one, when I was rewatching it, I was like, oh my God, there's so much mythical magic. Like, when the locket hits the water, it sends out like a magic vibration. And the 2 not cops, but yeah, like
the guards.
Yeah, the guards, and they're like, oh, what was that magic wave? And I just forgot, it is so magical, but something about it kind of makes it feel very dirty and rugged. It just looks so beautiful, and I feel like having so much real effects kind of, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a magical pirate story, even though it very, very much is.
I think the movie benefits a lot from Jerry Bruckheimer's production company, he works with Michael Bay. He's done a lot of television productions, but he's sweeping aerial photography of the huge, incredible ships, and all the production design they have is expertly photographed by this incredible...
2 boats that I presume they just put on the water and shot cannons at each other, because it's what it looks like.
Yeah.
The film feels so real. I remember kind of being like... Because I have seen the first one probably 30 to 40 times. Too many times. I was like kind of afraid to watch it, because I'm like, I get it.
So familiar.
Every single scene, they'd say a thing, and then I'd be like... You know, I was thinking the words.
Yeah.
But then I got so quickly, because it's like... The first scene, they're like, oh shit, there's like a guy on a boat, and it's like, there's a boy on a wood in the ocean. And then he just pans up, and it's just, real ships look like they're just been fully destroyed, and everything feels so real. I remember thinking at one point, when Jack Sparrow's swinging on a thing, he's like, whoa! And he lands on the boat, and I was just like, the movie's just, but in my back of my mind, I'm like, I remember watching Waterworld like a couple of weeks ago, or whatever, a couple months ago, and I was just so overwhelmed by just seeing them shoot this thing. Because it was like on the water. Whereas this whole film, within 6 minutes, I'm not impressed anymore because it's so impressive. Yeah. And I feel like I had to kind of clock that back into my mind to just be like, they're really swinging people from boat to boat. I mean, I don't know. They could have done trickery on a soundstage boat thing.
Certainly, but the implementation of it sells it...
breathtaking.
And it sells it maybe even more than the second and third films do. Although sequences in the second and third films absolutely outdo what happens in the first. But overall, the first film, its action feels more embedded in the character, in that actions that occur are characters working within situations and us seeing Jack Sparrow get out of the situation feels as much entwined with the way the character would do that by what we know at this point, whereas it feels less focused in 2 and 3, where it all becomes a little bit more generic swordplay, broad. There are sequences like the Kraken attacking the boat, which is amazing, but just a single action sequence with Jack feels less focused on the character and on developing or getting them into the next situation than it does in the first one.
Every single moment of the first one. We were talking about this before we did this, which is always a danger we have when we talk too much beforehand. But we couldn't help it because it's so good. And I remember you said it, and you're like, it's a perfect script. I'm like, that's what I thought. I remember thinking half an hour into this movie, it is just perfect. It is just so perfect because he does all the simple, basic A, B to C things. Like when our hero and our anti-hero meet, he's like, sure, I'm a swordman. He's like, and throughout their sword fight, it's just a sword fight, and it ends with one of them winning and the other one then getting knocked out. That's so you don't need to do anything, but the whole scene is so good. Like it starts with him being like, oh, you're pretty good at sword fighting. How's your footwork? And he starts kind of toying with Will, and then by the end of the footwork bit, he's like, oh, I trolled you. Now I'm by the door.
Yeah.
And then he just walks to the door, and you're like,
and there's a recognition that, okay, one-on-one this guy would beat me, but I'm a pirate and I'm gonna
fuck with him.
Yeah.
And then later on when he loses the fight for the second time, he's like, fuck, alright, I'll cheat. Dust in the face, gun, and the guy's like, oh, that's not fair. We have the sword combat, the arrangement of dueling. Or he says something like the arrangement of dueling or something. And Johnny Depp's like, I'm a fucking pirate cunt, what are you talking about? And then he's like, oh, that's not fair. And then right at the end of the movie, once Will's arc of being like, I don't want to be a pirate, my dad wasn't a pirate, to him being like, I'm a bloody pirate, mate. Or he's like having a sword fight, they can't win because they're undead, so he puts a fucking thing into the skeleton man, and when he pushes him out, and then he's like, oh, I'm not fair. And it's just like, each little bit, and the way they kind of slowly build everyone's like, each action scene I feel like has just so many kind of like layers, like even just the bit where they like have a fight at the end of the movie, kind of like when the movie ends and you think Will's going to kiss the girl, it's all going to end, but then they have that final epilogue scene, and then the two guys that were fighting at the start being like, ooh, footwork and stuff, implement a dual kind of, it's my favorite part of the movie, and he's got his huge hat with his giant feather, and they team up, and it's like, I just think, I don't know, man, I'm just floored by every piece of it, like even just the stuff where like, oh, actually, this is not just about the first movie, but the first movie ends, and I love the ending, but it is a bit like the hero's like, the bad guy's like, I'll let you go. You love the girl, and I love her, so I'll let you guys go. And it's like, we'll give them 1 day's head start. And I think that's a fun way to be like, oh, that character has kind of learnt. We've all learned a lesson, we're all good. But then the second movie's like, hey, that's a pretty Hollywood ending.
And this doesn't happen in the real world.
And in the real world, what would have happened is that Commodore is fucked, and he's got to go get that pirate. He shouldn't have given him a day's head start. And it ruins his fucking career. And that's my favorite aspect of 2. I think it takes
all of the characters from the first one to their exactly where they should go.
I feel like the first movie, it's fun, it's swashbuckling, and it has like, it's pirates, but we're not murderous, rapey pirates. There's no rape here. It's all just fun. And we're like more like about freedom, like hippies. And then and so they go off sailing. But in the second one, it's like, no. But her saying like, because the dad's like, do you really want to marry Will? I mean, he's just a blacksmith. And she's like, no, he's a pirate. And it's like, so a criminal. So I guess we'll kill him? I guess we'll hang him? Because that's what we do with pirates. The movie starts and you got 3 pirates being hung. That's what you do. We hang pirates. And so I just love that the second movie starts and they're going to get married. But you know what? That's the Hollywood kind of thing. And the second movie's like, but what would happen is some official would come and be like, no. So you all let the pirate go? There was a public execution. Hundreds of people saw you all, and then you all just, no, you're all arrested. Yeah. You're all going to get killed. And I don't know. When I was rewatching the second one, because I always have this memory of it starting and it's kind of weird and moody and I don't really like it. And not until Johnny Depp shoots the bird am I like, hey, I'm in. I love this movie. But
well, that is one part that I would like to touch on. And I see what you're saying. with the opening of the second film. Very, very different. We catch up with all the characters, and they do all feel to be the natural progression of where they all ended from the first one, which is what the second one does very well. Takes these characters, and we actually get to follow where their arcs should go.
After a Hollywood ending. I found it so fascinating.
All the setups and everything's there for us to go into the second darker chapter, I suppose, and follow all these characters. I would say where the film might misstep is with where you see the first inclination of a misstep is the introduction of Jack in the second film over the introduction of Jack in the first film. So our introduction to Jack in the first film is him sailing on a sinking ship to
perfectly lands.
Exactly. And so we see him standing on it, and then it pans back, and we see the
sinking ship.
He puts his leg out, and he stands on the thing. And it's perfect. His little interaction with the man on the pier, and him paying extra, leave the name out of it, and then stealing his coin foils right after.
So good.
So perfect, and so perfectly sets up the final twist at the end of the film where he steals the coin yet again to become undead. It's all perfect. It's all things being set up are paid off. The second film, I think, has a little bit of an identity crisis with Jack. Only
how do we introduce him in a big, flashy, funny way?
Well, yeah. So what we're left with is they've given less thought to how do we bring this character in. It seems more concerned with let's just let Johnny Depp do his thing and put him into these positions
and let him Jack Sparrow about,
as opposed to the first movie, which is let's design this sequence around this character and then have him operate within it.
And then he brings his stuff into
exactly.
Because they had the script before he brought his rock star kind of thing.
But him shooting the bird popping out of the coffin is just not as good an introduction. We are not being informed by the character. What I would actually think they would have been a lot better off doing in the second movie, let the entire second movie play out exactly the same way it does, but cut that scene with him in the coffin, cut the following scene with him on the Black Pearl.
Getting the black spot.
Just start the movie with Will finding the Black Pearl on the beach. And maybe...
And then he's the chief.
And someone might have already said this maybe I'm ripping this off someone else, but it felt like if this were the first movie and Will and Jack didn't meet and they were you would introduce this character ruling the villagers in that chair at that moment with all the crazy pain. And you would just be like, how did he get here?
What's going on?
And that's way more interesting than...
Because then he could be like, black spot, cracking things.
And we're already, the universe has moved on a little bit. It's not quite picking exactly where... And really all they're doing is deviating. We get all that information doled out after. There's not really that much you have to move around to make it work. You're only losing a couple of scenes, and the motivations of the characters are brought up and rediscussed after again as well. Which made me kind of realize, first, it would be funnier to introduce him like that. More mysterious, not really knowing what's going on. Explain the spot in his hand a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Yeah.
Or just introduce that element with Bootstrap Bill the same way in a scene after. Who knows? I feel like maybe holding off on that character a little bit more. Because I think the only real problem with the second movie is that it is so in love with its own universe, it wants to spend heaps of time everywhere. Which is both the thing I love about it and also what keeps it from being a tight, perfect film like the first one.
It is. The first one is this... It's like every great franchise. You look at it as a franchise before you see it and you're like I'm just thinking the Friday the 13th. I knew so much about it as a franchise. You watch the first movie, you're like, what the fuck is this? This is nothing like the franchise. Rambo. Every franchise, it has the same thing. Even The Matrix is the same thing where it's the first thing is so different to the world it is when you just know the whole world. But I think Pirates 1, it's tight, it's everything. Whereas I think 2 is just I don't know, man. 1, it's you have a bit of the fun, when he first gets away, he's like, this is the time you bloody thought you caught me. I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. And he hits the thing, he's like, I'm off, and he's like, whoa! And they're shooting him, and it's all bum, 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 dun, dun, and it's all fun. And there's a bit where, they're fighting on a rocking chair, not a rocking chair, but, you know, and it's like there's a
Oh,
bit
yeah,
of
like
it's
a
a bit of
seesaw.
absurdity where they're flying up onto the banisters and they're, you know, it's got a bit of that. Whereas I think 2.
I realised that, and what you're saying is exactly how I thought of it. In the first film, they actually fight on a big wheel, except the wheel is in a blacksmith's place.
Yeah,
and it's grounded.
Yeah.
And it's part of the action. In the second one, they fight on a big wheel,
But
and the wheel is rolling.
The wheel just does it.
The wheel's rolling down a hill and doing kind of almost impossible things.
For sure.
It could happen. It could roll all the way down that hill to the beach. Probably can't.
Sure.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I don't know, it's like, I totally know, because I watched the first one at the perfect age, Lord of the Rings was out, I was like 10 or something, and I was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
But, no, so 2 and 3 was in that same nugget, because I remember seeing the 4th movie, and my brother, who's 3 years younger than me, was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Jack Sparrow's the greatest character ever. And I'm like, you're an idiot. This sucks, and you're a child. And then 5 was like, I don't even know, shark, torpedo, gun. What has happened to this universe? But, so I have to kind of frame 2 and 3, because I literally remember leaving the cinema. No, I was lining up, and the line was 1,000,000,000 people, and a guy at school just walked past me, and I'm like, oh my God, what'd you think? And he's like, it sucks.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that guy sucks. Not my friend anymore. Never my friend. But it's like, I remember thinking, oh, so he didn't like it. And then watching it and being like, this is the greatest film I've ever seen. He was probably just that maturity level that just sees a big wheel and goes, done.
Yeah.
Whereas I see that as probably the funnest action-adventure moment of all time. It is so good. The locations and choices of 2 are so insane. Like, action set piece 1. An island of cannibals, balls of skeleton things,
Bones, yeah.
bones,
Crawling.
just giant cliff edges, fucking, I don't know, just greenery, sticks and stones, and just madness, where just the colour scheme, the visualness, Jack with all these fucking eyes on his face, everybody running about. I just love that 2 has just like so many elements, and the whole movie is just everyone we love from the first movie, plus new Tentacle Boy, and everyone's just looking for MacGuffin after MacGuffin. It's the most MacGuffin-y movie I've ever seen. It just starts and Jack's like, we need to get this key. And they're like, so that's the MacGuffin. He's like, no, we need to get this MacGuffin for the other MacGuffin. And someone's like, but for this other MacGuffin. He's like, that. And then another character's like, I want that same MacGuffin for a different reason to get the other MacGuffin for another different reason. It's like someone looked at Dead Man's Chest, went, MacGuffins are how you tell a story, and then wrote Rise of Skywalker, forgetting that actually the MacGuffins also then need to be something story element, like say someone's literal beating heart.
Yeah.
Because then the tension is real.
Or the thing you introduced in the first one, the compass, which is such a great payoff in the second. Like, they don't blow that in the first one, which...
Yeah, it's such, I forget
they
that's a
do
weird
now.
mystery.
No. It's him at the end of the movie just looking at this compass that doesn't... And even Norrington mentions it in the first one. Compass that doesn't...
Your compass doesn't even point north. You're the worst part also.
It's so perfect.
Those little... And just in terms of like... I just feel like... I don't know. I don't really know how much I have to say about the first one apart from just...
Tight, clean...
But that idea of introducing a compass... Like, it's like... Okay, we got a pirate man. He's anti-hero. We don't know if he's going to be good or bad. He's going to betray the good guys or betray the bad guys. We don't know. Also, he's got a magic compass that doesn't point north, but our hero knows it helps him. I don't even know if they know exactly what it is, but just that twist in the second one to reveal that. Like, there's a moment when he's kind of got his crew together to go get the heart, and Elizabeth Swann's on his team at this point, and he's like, hey, is it? Yeah, it's in the second one. And he's like, hey, this is a magic compass. And whatever you want, you most desire. And she's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, Jack. And Jack's like, nah, fucking, remember I was a skeleton zombie? It's all good. And I just love that everyone's kind of okay with it. Like, no one's like, what? A big tentacle? Davy, what? No.
Yeah, we get ease.
Yeah, there's only one line that in the context of the whole series, I think is a bit odd, where it's like, there's a bit where she's like, they're all, in the first one, she's like, don't listen to Jack Sparrow, the pirates are undead. And he's like, oh, don't worry, we already know. See, a mermaid flopped up and told us the whole story. And in the first movie, that's a great line. That fucking character is in a scene in the fourth movie. He's somehow tied on to be in the fourth movie where Geoffrey Rush is like, we're off to kill a mermaid for tears or something. But that's literally what's happening in that movie. And he speaks to everyone. And Gibbs is there, and it's all the Navy Royals. And that same Navy guy who said the mermaid line in the first movie is just there in this big scene where he's like, we're all afraid of Myrtle Beach or whatever the fuck, but we don't know why. And then Gibbs is like, mermaids? Is it mermaids? And he's like, it's mermaids. But I mean, we've done this. We've had sea goddesses. It's the mermaids. That's fine. And just in the context of the world, I feel like that line is a bit like, you know, just when you... But that's what happens when you introduce more magic. And that's why the first one feels real, because the idea of them being like, a mermaid, how absurd. Whereas once you watch the fourth one, you're like, yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
They didn't even sail that far to the place where mermaids regularly murder people all the time. I don't know. Straight thought. Another thought, just because I feel like, I don't know, this is... Just when I think about pirates now, it's Pirates of the Caribbean. Dun, 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 boom, boom. It's like fun. They've got all the stuff that pirates have, like... I don't. Maybe it's just in the fourth one where Geoffrey Rush is like, I got a wooden leg now, and they do that. They've got the guy without the mouth that has the parrot. You know, they do all the fun things, but they can't. I don't know. They've really cleverly kind of fully avoided that these are murderous monsters. Yeah, I don't know. It's like
They've kept it. They're Disney-fied pirates.
I don't know though, because it still feels so gritty and so dirty. And you know what you just said before we did the podcast is like. This did to pirates what Game of Thrones did to fantasy.
Yeah.
It dirtied it, it gritted. It felt like when you look at them, there's actual grime and dirt on their skin.
And it's lost that now. I think now people think of pirates and they actually think like kind of clean and CGI and so like you think Dead Men Tell No Tales, not the first movie, which the first movie is just everyone's grimy.
Everyone's got so much dirt on them, man. There's a scene where Gibbs is
the whole trilogy, I should say.
Oh no. Yeah. Well, all right, so. This is a great test for the differences. Before I watched these, I was really nervous to watch 1, 2, or 3 again. So before I watched these movies, I was like, I just gotta sit down and actually watch them. And honestly, having watched them now, it's like, there's probably like a little bit that I've been more informed just of rewatching it, but mostly only for the first one. 2 and 3 was just like, I know these back to front. I just love them so much. But to actually sit down and watch it, I was like, it just seems because I just know every fucking second of it, especially just starting the first one. So I was like, do I start 3, 4, 2, 3, 2, 1? And I'm like, no. I gotta watch it 1, 2, 3, so I know how I feel about it as a trilogy. But I was just like, okay, I just gotta start them somewhere. So I just put it on 4. It's like I just give me something to make me go, fuck that, let's start at 1. Start at 4. First 2 minutes, I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. I don't remember any of this, and it's like Spanish things that I don't know. It's just,
I don't remember either.
It's just like these guys on a boat. They pull someone up, and he's like, oh, something, and they're like, oh. They take him to a house, and this like prince is there, and he's like, fountain of youth. Then it's like, oh, and it's pretty good. Then it starts, and it's I don't know. It's just nah. It was just very crisp HD and CG feeling.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think I'd got to any real visual effects yet, just had a crispness. Then you look at it. I started 1 the next day. And my fucking first thought was, is this out of focus? It doesn't look like...
Oh, yeah.
Is my
shot on film?
Is my footage fucked? Oh, no, it must be Disney. Oh, no, it's just a real movie. You kind of forget they shot things on film. So the graininess and the dirt and the...
But that's so like Treasure Cove place where they keep the Aztec gold in that first movie, I don't think it works.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
Well, no. I don't think works.
Disagree, sir.
No. Let me finish my thought. Right. I don't think it works with like a 4K HD cinema camera, but grainy film with the moonlight coming through, it all works. Like if you really look and zoom in on like The Rock, it probably looks like a crappy
fake
styrofoam,
set.
the rubbery thing. But because it's all kind of bathed in the right light.
It's dirty, it's dark, it's real dark.
And there's not too much detail. And kind of the second and third are nowhere near as bad as 4 and 5, but are right in the middle, where like a lot is CG, but they're still shooting on film. So you're still kind of in this halfway point.
The difference though from 3 to 4
is
because I watched like 15 minutes of 4. Then the next day I watched 1 and 2, 3, and then when I watched 4, I got about 40 minutes in. I fell asleep and I just never went back. But it's 1, and as you said, 2 and 3. Well, obviously they filmed them together 3 years later. But 4 is where it's like it feels entirely different.
Yeah.
There was this thing. It's just this little thing that I went. That's it. This is the thing I'm going to bring up for why I think they're different. I don't know what it is, but And I bet you if I looked at the clips, they'd be less dramatically different than I remember. But I think it's 3, but it could be 2. Beckett, the evil...
Yeah, Cutler Beckett.
I'm Navy man. It starts on a scene of him, and it's like a close-up of his tea. And then it kind of moves out, and it's just a slow, patient shot of him drinking his tea on a boat. And I was like, I get everything. He's brought his civil tea-drinking world on the boat. In the 4th one, Geoffrey Rush has turned into that kind of character, and he's drinking tea. And the shot's the same shot, but it just starts a bit further out. It's a bit more just... It just is there to be like, we start the scene, and I guess we'll move out half an inch.
Yeah, and it doesn't
There's
work
just no life to it.
Right.
And in the 3rd one, I was like... It was just a simple thing of being like... I didn't even notice it in the 3rd one, really, until I just saw the same shot and just went... They just put half the effort in. And it's immediately just hit me with just like, I just have a sense of they don't give a fuck anymore. And I don't know, it was a really weird thing. And I bet you if we play these 2 scenes up, you'd be like, there's no difference at all. But I just think that like little parts of detail, 4 really feels like it's just doing. It's just doing it. Like Jack Sparrow's there. There's parts of it where he's like...
It's doing it because movies do it, not because it's motivated by... characterization.
This is what movie does now. We're at part B, so we do part B. Mr. Rockstar Daddy Sparrow. I forgot the actor's name.
Johnny Depp?
No, sorry, Johnny Depp's dad.
Keith Richards?
Yes, sorry. He's in the 3rd one as like this huge, like it takes 2 hours to get there. It's a massive reveal. They're like the bookkeeper of the code. And Johnny Depp's like, oh my God. And you're like, what? Oh shit. It's beautiful. It's really, that's like a thing you do at the end of your trilogy when there's going to be no more. You bring in the dad. He's the code of the... I don't know.
And it's a reference to the...
the origin of the character, because he's like, oh, pirates used to be like washed up rock stars. No, they weren't. They were rapists and murderers. Why did you take this angle? It's so good.
In 3, I feel like that cameo works... because there's a purpose within the scene as to why this character's entering. It's a fun cameo. That's where you put it. That's where
it's a perfect moment to put it to.
And it's not too long. And it's maybe there's one thing he does that's too.
What?
He
playing with time.
In the 3rd one, he just there's one line too many about referencing Jack Sparrow or sea turtles.
There is. You know what? No, it is. He's reading the book and someone says something and he just says bloody sea turtles, mate. And it's like, no, and that's fucking shit.
If they didn't do that, it would have been fine. Yeah.
I actually have 2 lines. I think I have 1 line in each movie that I fucking just hated. And it's World's End, the sea turtles by the dad. Because for one, that implies that Johnny Depp is either... I don't know. No, see, I hate that.
It's because Gibbs tells that story to people,
So the dad has heard this bullshit story his son's told, and he's then referencing it. It's way too much for us.
The idea now, because what they're doing is recontextualizing that idea. So initially, the sea turtles is a gag because Gibbs tells stories about Jack Sparrow to make him seem bigger than he is.
No, but I think Jack Sparrow's told that sea turtle story to be like, I got off this island. How? Sea turtles. And he's created this... fake. No? Oh, okay.
For sure, but I think the way you're reading it is Gibbs is the guy who tells the larger-than-life story. Like, Jack Sparrow, for the most part, seems more concerned with whatever the goal is. And then this right-hand guy with him, to me, he seems to be the one spreading that. Jack Sparrow is aware of the story, but in that first movie, to me, I read it as Gibbs tells the larger-than-life story about what Sparrow really did, which was actually probably mundane and boring. And he's puffing him up more because he's invested in all of this pirate stuff. Okay. But then in the 3rd movie, the dad saying sea turtles means that Jack just got it from his dad. It changes the meaning of it from the first movie.
I hate this whole franchise now?
You're putting that line in to try and continue this running gag. But you forgot how the running gag
started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did it start because Gibbs tells larger-than-life stories about pirates and puffs them up? And that's the joke in that scene because Will calls him out.
He's like, what the fuck, how? And he's like,
how did he use rope?
Hair on my back.
And it's him, like, everyone's aware of it, yeah?
I remember as a kid never actually understanding that he was, like, lying and being like, the back on your... What? I'm just being disgusted by that. Being like... Oh,
how long would you need to collect?
Didn't you get leaves off a coconut tree or something? Like, there's so many... what the fuck? What about just like grass? But like, I think that's interesting though, because I kind of feel like I kind of take it more that Jack has spread those lies just because he got off and then someone's like, how'd you get off the island? You were marooned. And he's like,
I rode some sea turtles.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
You can read it that way too, because he does mention it. I just always thought it's because, I mean, Gibbs is always the character delivering this stuff. He's always the one puffing the story up. He's always the one he's the exposition guy. That's why his character is in the entire trilogy. He's there because he's not a really great pirate, because he's probably a little bit too much of a good guy. But he gets along with Jack.
Because he used to just be a Navy dude. I love that little thing.
Yeah, and he's a drunk. And he's, he doesn't have his shit together, but he just loves all this. He's a fanboy.
Yeah.
In this universe.
He's a pirate fanboy.
He
That's
is.
it.
Yeah. And he loves being around the pirates, and Jack gets along with him. And I don't know. You can read it as either.
Gibson, his, what are they called?
Mutton chops, I guess.
I fucking love his visual. I fucking love it. Alright. So you were just talking about Mr. Exposition. What I noticed this time, in 2 and 3, Calypso, what's her name?
Tia Dalma.
Tia Dalma, before it's revealed she's Calypso, has like 2 or 3 moments where she just fully explains Calypso's whole deal, and she's always just talking about it. And like this time, I was just like, I don't know.
Also, whenever someone's talking about her and it cuts to a wide shot, she's eyeballing everyone,
holding the harp and like,
yeah, way more in the third, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Just part of my brain.
The fact that I actually thought it was hard to follow the first time I saw it.
Then when it's revealed to be her, you're like, what?
Yeah, not only that, but half the cinema didn't understand what was happening. Like, I talked to people leaving at World's End. Half the people I went with, and I was in high school at the time, half the people, like, it lost me. I didn't understand what was happening at that point in the movie to the end.
It's like...
Which basically is they trapped a god in human form, bound her with a few pieces of
And they need
things.
to bring Jack Sparrow back because he's got one of the magical pieces of knives.
So she brings back Barbossa and then finds a bunch of his friends to go and bring him back. So literally, the second and third movie is about a god tricking a bunch of people into being released back into the ocean.
Which is fucking sick.
It is sick. I love it. And everyone hates it.
Yeah, I remember actually disliking it. And because before we watched these, I remember we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And I was like, the point the World's End steeps over into 4 and 5 for me, in terms of quality, as in fucking trash, is she gets really big. It's not that. Also, the way they shoot her getting big is fucking phenomenal.
It looks so good.
It looks so fucking good.
The camera shooting
it's
up.
Barely. There's a bit
her.
where you see like this part of her, but like just a bit of it. It's like, I don't know. Someone was talking about recently. I don't know what video it was, but the dragons in Game of Thrones never being fully shown. The wings are always out of frame. To give a bit, for sure. You know when like someone explains something, you're like, oh, because it does this. Yeah. This movie does the same where it's like shooting her like the first Godzilla movie, you know.
From the ground up.
Yeah, and
from
like
a
all this
human
stuff.
perspective.
It's fucking sick, and then she's all like, and you're like, yeah, we can't hear you, you fucking stupid god. You're too big, your voice doesn't reverb or what, I don't know. But like, the point, it makes me like actually like kind of cringe. She explodes into fucking crabs. I hate it so much.
Oh, really?
It's CGI. That reminds me of like, I remember when we watched Infinity War here like months and months ago, and I was just blown away by a giant TV and being like, he's got stubble on his head. Thanos shaves his head. That's awesome. There's so much quality. But then I was watching bits where like Thor's holding the thing to do the thing at the end, to swing the thing to get the hammer thing, and he just smashes through some CGI just stuff. He's like, and he's just smashing, and it's just CGI nothing. And it's just
with
like
a human cutout.
Yeah, and it's just like, and it's so quick and nothing, and you're so used to the CGI flair of everything that you're just like,
Yeah.
That's what that crab bit is. It's just crabs exploding CGI all over the screen, and then they're all just like, what? So I was trying to think what I'd do different, and I really couldn't think of anything except for she should just, I feel, exploded into water. I just love the idea that she explodes water, everyone gets drowned, they're all like, oh, what the fuck was that? And you could do what they do in the start of Inception, where you just fucking drop a house of water on them. Just Just hit them with water.
You're absolutely right.
And imagine seeing real water just smash them all.
It also fits with the character more.
Yeah, because she's a fucking sea goddess.
Yeah.
She is the water.
Yeah.
There's parts where she's like, I am the sea. And no, but even like Davy Jones is like, I am the sea. So for her to literally fall into the ocean, so I fucking hate those goddamn. It just made me so like, I don't know.
Why did you do this?
And the crabs were so similar to the sand crabs. At the start of the movie.
Which made me think. I was actually going to bring that up. Is there meant to be there's an intentional visual similarity between the two, even though there's a definite color difference.
Yeah.
But because that's Davy Jones' locker, and then she is is that what they're going? But those crabs are kind of dirtier and like you see them, they look differently.
Someone's got a crab on them.
Yeah.
I guess for me as well, the idea that because I don't know, I was watching it this time because I always remember like, The World's End's that one where we don't get Johnny Depp for half an hour. Because as a kid, I remember literally like walking around school in year 7 being like, like I was so obsessed. Watched the trailer a billion times for 2. Like I was so into this character. And I remember in 3 being like, what the fuck, he's not it, Spider-Man! And then he comes in and he's fucking like shooting himself tall, he's gone mad. Which is so cool. It's like, okay, this pirate is a narcissistic, wants to, like, I love the arc of 3. The arc of 1 is like, Jack Sparrow wants to get his ship back. The arc of 3 is Jack Sparrow is trying to decide whether or not he wants to be immortal.
Yeah.
And he's like weighing that up. He's like, be immortal but never be on land. And I just found that fascinating because he's a fucking narcissistic psychopath. And then the movie's him alone in a desert with his ship. But somehow he like beats the purgatory world. But with crabs, why aren't they fucking sea turtles? That's all I kept thinking the whole time is if they had been sea turtles, I just feel like I would have been like, you know, but that could be way too much. I could be like, oh god, see, but it's like it's in his mind. But is it? Because it's a place. But no one else is there. So, but then they get there and they're like, Johnny Depp's not here. It's like, I don't know.
It becomes surreal in the.
I feel like now I'm talking about it and trying to decipher it. I'm getting angry, but when I watch it, I love the idea of it.
Yeah.
Like the visual,
even just them sailing at night in the stars, and then going progressively, and then flipping the ship.
So yeah, for instance, the up is down bit is fucking stupid. It's so stupid. Yeah. It's like we just flip the boat, and then.
But it's magic.
But then the water's gonna go, and then we're up again.
Yeah.
But it's all about visual. It's a film. If I was reading this in a book, I'd be like, cool, I can create. But it's a film, so they've got to decide how we do it. And there's this beautiful visual once they've spun the boat around.
It's like,
and it's at the line. I just remember looking at it and just being like,
and the camera goes.
Yeah, and it's just so beautiful. And then the water rushes up, and it's like, I get this. I think that was a really fun, clever way. And then we also get the thing which I love, which is journeying to just real far away. And the bit where they're all like frozen and going through that frozen ice places, I think is really cool. Just the visual idea, and then there's his toe off. It's like
there's a Narnia book called The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which is essentially it's a characters from the earlier books. It's the only book in the series that doesn't have like a villain, and it's just it's an expedition to the end of the earth.
Literally what I'm talking about.
To the end of Narnia. The book is great. I love it, and the film is just
about as good as the Narnia movies are.
For sure. They don't bring it to life like the book brings it to life, and At World's End does a closer job to doing Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
That beautiful imagery of getting there.
So much of that, yeah. I mean, the way that it's described in the book, the closer they get, is what you feel when you watch At World's End, which is just like a sense of awe and like beauty at the location, and it becomes more and more surreal. And it's the closest I think a film's come to capturing that feeling I get reading that book. Cool. And I would like to see someone make it more like that. Take it even further. Go all the way.
You're going to get your wish. They're doing
at Netflix.
Yeah. Which
I want to see the whole Narnia series done as a beginning to... I mean, the books literally take place from the creation of the world until the end.
Of Narnia.
Yeah, so we get to... And they were all kind of written out of order and in a funny thing, and you can read them chronologically.
I was not aware of that until you told me that like 2 weeks ago. I was like,
yeah, it was like the... Basically, he wrote just stories, standalone stories, and then the last 2 books are the beginning and the end.
Oh.
That's the easiest way to surmise it. It's like, you know,
Yeah, no.
Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Silverchair. They're like the main ones. And then there's Horse and His Boy,
The nephew one,
which is like a standalone story, not really related. And then Beginning, Magician's Nephew,
I've read that
End, Last Battle.
So I remember reading that one because I remember the movie came out and I was like, that's the second book. And I was just fundamentally annoyed. I was like, I don't understand it. Then I read the book. I'm like, it's fine. I see why they skipped it. But when you told me that, I'm like, this all makes sense now. Buddy, that's cool.
But I think that will be interesting, finally seeing them tell the story kind of beginning to end, and they'll have actors run through all of them.
Don't fuck it up.
I think they won't do what they did in the movies because the movies already did it. They already made 3 movies.
Of that kind of the core story.
Of doing it in the order of publication. They were releasing them kind of like how the books were released.
And
Netflix own all 7, so they can literally just start with The Magician's Nephew, tell the origin of and then you'll watch it essentially like a TV show.
Do you want us to do season to book, do you think? Or is it...
No. I reckon you do maybe 3 or 4 episodes of each
season. Oh, wow. So 3 seasons.
So maybe you can sustain a book from, I guess, that would be 2 to 4 hours per book. I think that you would be able to comfortably do it. And there are books that have more, and you can now, I mean, because of the order in which he wrote them and the kind of retrospective beginning and end that he put on it all, you can now take that and run with it a bit more and make it more cohesive and tell an overarching story better. I think now that you have the benefit of doing all of that and make it fit a bit better, because he's very clear about the idea. I've seen him write about how he wrote them, and it was like, I was just writing stories, and then people were like, how did this happen? He's like, I better write the...
You better start.
And I better, it was very simple.
That's a really
that's become complicated.
Way. Do you think then it would be fun to, because it's a show and you can just be like, because like what I love in a show is when you got like, just say you got a 22 episode season and then like 17 episodes in, it's like the flashback epi. Like what comes to mind straight away is in Prison Break season 1, about episodes 16 to 18, somewhere in there, right towards the end of the season, it's flashback epi. We see how everyone goes to prison. And it's just like, I just love having a story, but then like just before the penultimate episode, we get the flashback, like to reveal all those little tidbits. Do you think it would work as a show to be like, let's get him in with the lion. Everyone loves lions. Get him in with that. Do the story. And then whenever he actually wrote that in, then be like...
Well, I think it does... No, you're right. Because there are things introduced in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe that are...
mysteries.
That are mysteries. And that really don't serve any purpose in the story other than to be intriguing.
So you'd have to cut him out if you knew.
Well, no. It's just if you do it in order... That mysterious thing, we know how it got there.
That's what I mean.
The first Narnia book, she walks through a wardrobe into another world, and there's like an old style London lamppost lit up. That she's like,
that's it.
What the fuck? Like how is this here? And there's a weird fawn creature. Changed, played by Professor X. But if you do the first one, that explains how that lamppost got there. And it's not really that interesting. So there's no mystery. And that whole...
Wait, you literally find out how that single lamppost got there?
It's circumstantial. Through the telling of the first story and the creation of Narnia, it just happens to be there because it's connected with our world. And it just ends up there and is there. And as a mystery... Not knowing how it got there, it's more interesting than seeing it play out in order. Like most mysteries, it's just how you divvy out the information that makes it interesting.
For instance, just to bring it back to Pirates of the Caribbean, after 50 minutes in Narnia, but it's like we're just talking about like the reveals and slowly giving people the information. What's kind of fascinating to rewatch something where it's like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like if you ask me like, when did I find out things like the reveals in Star Wars? But no, I always knew. I've never ever not known that they were twins. They were like the dad. All the reveals, everything I've known forever, just forever. And Pirates of the Caribbean now kind of feels like that. Like when they actually reveal everything, and then an hour and something in, it's like you find out Jack Sparrow was the ex-captain of the Black Pearl, and just I don't know. As I was watching, just these little things, it's like it's really, really cool how tight and how kind of simple it is. And it's like I don't know.
He signed a deal with Davy Jones to get the ship of his dreams for 13 years, and then he would sell his soul to him.
He immediately loses the ship.
He probably has it a couple of weeks.
It's implied he doesn't have the ship at all for any time, really.
And then gets marooned by Barbossa after betraying Bootstrap Bill, who then also gets picked up by Davy Jones. And then...
But no, Bootstrap's after, because he's like, I'm not cool with this betrayal of Jack Sparrow. And then they...
Right,
also, something I never...
And they drop him to the bottom of the ocean.
I've always found... You know what I realised this time? And it's never dawned on me until this time. Which I don't... Sometimes I feel like my child brain just didn't get things. They say they drop a cannon to his feet.
To his bootstrap.
Oh my god. So, I don't know, they've always said this in all the movies, but it's like Bootstrap, they fucking put him at the bottom of the ocean on his boots with the cannon.
Undead.
But he's undead, so he's just there.
Being crushed by the weight of the sea. So then Davy Jones rolls up and goes, hey...
Do you fear death?
Yeah.
Tentacle man!
He's like, you're going to be stuck here forever, so I can either leave you here or you can join
it's
my
not
crew.
even a question.
Of course,
like,
you join Davy Jones.
I am the biggest not fan of living forever. Like the idea of being a vampire would be the worst fucking thing, you know? Just, I don't know, you know? It's just, I hate the idea of that. It sounds terrifying. That is like, I don't know, man.
That's so much more terrifying, yeah.
I don't know if the visual is too much, because this is a movie for everyone, but I don't know, man. It's one of my favourite things ever, and I was like 10 when I saw this. And it was like spooky and scary, but the perfect level for kids. Also, I'm just on another tangent. The comedy duo Pirates, you know, the...
Mackenzie Crook and...
We're the wacky comedy pirate guys. We were in dresses at one point. Are not the comedy duo I remember them in the first one. That first fucking scene where they're like, puppet here,
they're
puppet.
terrifying.
It's fucking scary, man. There's like one moment in each movie that is just so scary. And it's so fucking awesome. Like, just beautifully quiet where you see the carpets pulled up so he knows. Pans up to like the slit. And then you see her with the perfect colour. And then his shadow just...
Yeah.
I was like...
I remember...
It's fucking scary shit. It's really well made.
Those characters in the first movie are different after... When you go and watch 2 and 3 and then come back around to 1, you're like, oh, these characters aren't the same characters anymore.
It's like... take the comedy and get rid of all the scary.
But even... They recontextualize that first movie for me. Where I go, now I can't see them as that scary thing. I remember thinking they were scary, but I can't see it anymore.
I don't know. This movie, I think Pirates of the Caribbean is a perfect movie. Nothing ever could be in this movie that makes me go, oh, that's so... You know, it's like Jurassic Park. It's like, it's such a perfect movie that you can be like, hey, a cliff appears out of fucking nowhere in the best part of the movie, and it's so fucking irritatingly done.
It should break it.
It doesn't though.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when I know it and I'm watching it, it's just too good.
Yeah.
Because it's a real dinosaur and he's like, his steam's coming out his nose. Fucking sick. This movie's the same. Because the whole point of the movie, from the villain's point of view, is that they can't feel anything. That scene where he reveals, he's like, I feel nothing. Not the taste of flesh, not the skin on a woman, and all this stuff. And it's like really intense, really sad, and really humanizing. And you can see where these evil monsters are coming from. You're like, fuck, man, dude just wants to eat a fucking apple and taste it. And there's points in the movie where he's stabbed, and he's like, I said I feel nothing. Stop stabbing me, bitch. Yet there is fucking like 20 times in the movie where people are stabbed, and they're like, oh! It's like, what? There is...
That's true.
Put the clip up. There's a scene right at the end where he stabs the long thing through the three of them. And it's a shot of his face and he's like... And it comes around and it's like... just screaming for me, the audience. Like, because at the start of the movie, he fucking kills the guy, the bomber mini-boss at the end, who I fucking love. I just feel like everything they do... They do in the second one too. It's like, I'm a hammerhead. I'm a long... Just the little piratey touches of everyone, I think is really cool. And they don't get anything. They're just there to flash out the world. But he screams when he gets hit in the back at the start of the movie and falls down dead. Yet later, they're just getting hit and stabbed when we know they're undead and they don't... So there's a bit of that.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's some moonlight things that I noticed at times where I'm like, shh. But honestly, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Because... when they decide to make the moonlight what it does, it's like when they're walking underwater and there's the boat, so there's the water and they're all skeletons, then they're human, then they're skeleton. It's fucking like... That's
taken so much thought and the execution is perfect. The CGI is just implemented. I mean, that is when the practical and the computer generated and the lighting and the cinematography and all of the things come together to form something greater than all of their parts.
So much greater. It is
so that is and a lot of the sequences throughout the film. I think the first movie, and I would say 2 and 3 as well, for the most part, never lose sight of the fact that this is a theme park ride. All right?
Yeah.
And essentially, what this is are 5 or 6 sequences of theme park dioramas, and we are going to string these dioramas together with a script that will hopefully coalesce and this will all make sense.
And somehow...
And you start with, you know, boy, pirate ship mystery, whatever. I mean, the first big action sequence is, I suppose, when they land at port...
Well, the first one is Elizabeth Swann falls.
Oh, true.
And she's saved by...
Yes.
Also...
with smaller scat for sure. And then stealing the ship, which is perfect. It's so well done.
So fucking cool.
It's so well staged and blocked, and you follow it all, and you see them putting their plan together, and it's perfect.
And when you see it from they're not even... what I kind of like as well is the Navy guys aren't really like villainous. They're just like at the end of the movie, Elizabeth Swann's like, oh, we shouldn't be killing Johnny Depp. He's so sexy. I'm gonna have a weird kind of love thing with him in the second one. So,
but yeah.
That's also a weird thing. I'm like, that doesn't feel like it's in the first one at all. She didn't feel attracted to him in the first one. You know, like at one point she's like drinking with him, and he's all like, "He," and she's like, "What the fuck?" I'll trick him with the...
Exactly.
He's a drunk idiot.
But she's aware of it, and she uses it, which is what I love about her character, specifically in the second one, is that she is just as much another player in this big chessboard of pirates as anyone else.
Oh yeah, she's got the same arc as Will, where it's like, "Fuck pirates, they're evil," and then at the end she's like, "I love being a pirate," because you can, I don't know, their little like flair of adventure is always there.
I agree, but I would say that she's less fuck being a pirate and more, all pirates are mysterious and sexy. But no.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
No, he is
Whereas
way
he's
more...
very much hardline opposed.
Yeah, no, because he's like, I learned to fight 3 hours a day simply to kill pirates. It's like,
she's a bit of a fanboy like Gibbs, I think.
Yeah. Actually, no, you're
just
right.
Just the feminine side of it.
Yeah.
Where there's an allure and there's a mysticism and there's an appeal to it all. And that is kind of channeled through Will, who's kind of this both...
in-betweeny.
Yeah, he's not Norrington, this too clean, squeaky clean,
yeah.
but he's not a piece of shit like Jack. He's like right in the center. He's got like a code and ethics, but he'll also do the right thing if it's illegal, I guess, is the point of difference.
Speaking of Norrington,
what a great character.
I love him so much. Him from 1, 2 to 3. It's like 1, I'm a proper Navy boy.
I'd say 3 is where he gets short shrift. Maybe his end.
Oh, okay, because I fucking crave. He's not a major character by the end, because the first movie, he's the major antagonist in terms of like, there's Barbossa,
for sure.
But he's like the Navy antagonist, and he's kind of like the opposite of Will. I don't know. It's like him and Will are both like kind of there, but he's like, I'm a Navy boy, and Will's like, I'm going to be a pirate boy. Whereas the second one, it takes that realistic turn of like, no, he made this decision at the end, and it's going to ruin his fucking career. He makes a bad decision that we don't see, trying to get through the hurricane. I love the idea. They mention the hurricane, and then later on, he has the speech, and we don't see him, and he's like, fucking this, that, fucking hurricanes, and Gibbs is like, what the... You tried to go through it or something? And it's just vague enough. I love what happens between 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The idea that because he's let them... Because that guy's like, should we go after them? He's like, no, just give it a day. Which I've loved forever, but it's like, what are you talking...
No,
if you're going to give it a day, just go now. I don't know, I just love all that so much. And so when he arrives, he's like, I'm just a fucking pirate, I'm a mess now. His whole goal, though, he's not like, I'm a mess, I'm a pirate, but I love it. He's like, fuck this shit. I'm sick of being a drunk, I want my life back. And that's really, like, powerful. And then he fucks them all over by, at that point where he's like, I'll take the chest and I'll sacrifice myself. But he's got the heart on him. I don't even know if we'll be able to get to that fight scene because I don't have anything to say, but oh, I just love it so much. But him doing that, and then he gets there at the end, and the only character at the end of the second movie that's not on a down point is the villain, which is so cool. And Norrington. So he becomes a villain there because he's like, hey, villain, Beckett, have the heart and end the world with this fucking thing. And then in the third one, the first scene we come in, he's hearing about Beckett being like, the pirates know they're fucking doomed. Where are we gonna kill them though? Where are we gonna kill them? That's all I have to decide. And him and the dad are both like, fuck. And the dad gets fucking murdered off screen. He finds out, and she's like, fucking pick a side, cunt. And he's like, I don't know. I don't know. I love the theme. There's another movie I can't think of right now that has a great which is like, you got to pick a fucking side, because even if you're on the fence, when shit really hits the fan, you pick a side. And if you haven't picked a side, somehow that's picking a side. Yep. And I just love it that he's just like, it just occurs to him. He's like, fuck, no, I'm going to do this. Because as soon as he decides to let him go, he's dead. Yeah. And the movie would have been really...
Well, that's the thing as well, is that, I mean, he is on Davy Jones' ship, so death doesn't mean death because you get an option. Like, he walks back up to him and he goes, do you fear death? And he's like, fuck you. That was essentially...
Yeah, he just stabs him. It's like, I'll take that as a no. Yeah. It's like, ha ha ha. So, I love characters saying that.
Whereas, I suppose that character at an earlier point probably would have taken the deal. Because that's all he was doing. That's essentially all you're doing, whether it's with Davy Jones or whether it's with the East India Trading Company, is like selling your soul to this body, whether it's a magical ghost ship or whether it's a bureaucratic...
government thing.
Yeah, corporation. Yeah. Well, no matter what it is, like, that's what you're doing. And the end of his character arc is saying no. Yeah. It's saying, no, I'm free, and I'm gonna fight. Fuck you guys.
That's what I think. That's what I think 2 and 3 actually do really strongly. Is they propel the idea that we've made this pirate universe not murdery, rapey, but freedomy. Yeah. Which I think is totally fine. I'm not saying like, hey, they should have Game of Thrones this shit. I absolutely don't think so. There's like one line in a movie that kind of implies a bit of rape. Like there's one, the one I can't remember. Yeah. I remember, but in one particularly,
about her being naked or.
Oh shit! I'm sure that seems more of like a joke because it's like, how are we gonna get her to come? Oh, if you don't wear the dress, you're gonna be naked. She's like, well, I don't want to be naked. I'll be cold. Yeah. But like the one that's like really gross and creepy that I don't think I've ever noticed until this time. It's like, he cuts Elizabeth's hand and he drops it, and she's like, oh, I thought you were gonna murder me. He's like, he's like, let's not waste what it's like a weird parody. I'm not going to waste that shit, but it's like, what do you... What are the Geoffrey Rush, what the fuck?
What are the connotations of that?
It's 50 pirate men leaving the woman alive, because of course they would. Yeah, that was the only point where I'm like, what the fuck? That's in the movie. I don't want them to make it dirtier and grittier, but by kind of deciding that the pirate... Like, Jack's like... I don't know, there's a bit in the first one where he's like, my boat. He's like drunk, so he's kind of a bit, but he's like, my boat. It's like, it's not a boat. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, it's not a boat. It's not like a thing. It's a way of life. It's a feeling, a mood. I can't remember what he said, but I just remember being like, oh, fuck, that's like, that's awesome. Like, what he feels he represents as a pirate on a ship alone is beautiful. And I love that they've decided that's the pirate thing. So in 2, the government things aren't like, fuck pirates because they're criminals and rape people. It's like, no, we're control. We're order. Yeah. And they're free. And it's like, I don't know. It's like there's a bit where he's like, get Jack Sparrow's compass, and Jack Sparrow can be free. He's like, well, you're not saying free. You want him to be a privateer and work for you. I don't think Jack's gonna think employment is freedom. And that there, I was like, I don't know. It's funny when you, like, I don't know. For me as a kid, it was always just swashbuckling. Dun, 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 dun.
There's more to chew on.
There's so much to chew on, and it's like you were saying, Jack Sparrow has the greatest character introduction ever. We could go through all the movies ever, but generally speaking, I'm trying to think of all my iconic characters, everything I love. It's the best introduction of any character ever. He's so fucking cool. Not my favorite ever villain death, but something that I think is like, if you ask me, before you sit down and watch these movies again, name 5 things that are iconic. You have 4 things with Jack Sparrow doing fucking running on fucking...
I know what you're going to say.
The death of Beckett is my favourite thing in the world.
It's the Black Pearl and the Flying Dutchman.
Double teaming him. It's the moment that he got... Because it's a split-second thing. It's so fucking cool.
It's better than the whole Whirlpool before it.
Oh, so much better. That's when the movie almost gets too much. And I'm never that guy who's like, oh, there's too much CGI, the Lord of the Rings, that's why the third one sucks. Like, that's not why.
But that one sequence of them ripping that ship apart is better than the entire Whirlpool crazy...
It's so real, though. But, like, for me, the explosions, the slow-mo CGI ship... It's not even the slow-mo real fucking ship exploding.
The wood splintering.
Everything, just so cool. But for me, the thing I just love so much is this is a guy who's just like, hey, I do this. Here's a letter. He's in control, and he's drinking tea on the boat. He doesn't give a fuck. He's just looking out there. There's a bit where explosions are happening. He just comes out into the boat at one point, and it's just very like, he's just chill. He's just calculated, cold, and kind of chill. And then the Dutchman arises after the whirlpool scene, and he doesn't know what's happened. He doesn't know Davy's gone, and the main character that is now the boat. It's like bad boat, good boat. Now they're both good boats, but he doesn't know that. And so he arrives. He's like, oh, she survived. Cool. And then they both just turn, and he just kind of realizes. He realizes it's too late. He realizes everything he's ever done has led him to this point. I don't know, man. I just felt like I was getting so much from him in just that realization. Because then that other guy who's been there, so he's the guy who's like, that's the best pirate I've ever seen in the world. Yeah. Who's the greatest extra in the whole series. He's just like, what do I do? Orders. And he just doesn't respond. It's just good business. Because just before, when he's all cocky, he's like, I'm sorry, Jack, it's just good business. And then he realizes that I don't know, it's just such a basic, like, yeah, the good guys are all about freedom, killed the big businessman who's like, oh no, my big business plans. Like, it just worked for me so well. And then the visual of him just being like, he like goes into shock. And it's the first time in the movie that any actual thing has come at him in any different way. And he's not fully in control, 2 steps above it all, and he completely freezes. And everyone else, I presume that extra who loves Jack Sparrow survives. I presume he jumps off and swims to shore. Because I like the idea. But Beckett's just the idea that he just walks down. It's the ship, it's the staircase exploding as he just walks behind. And then that just last bit as the fire engulfs him. It's fucking cool, man.
So good.
And I just think that character... I Googled that actor, and I was he's not really in stuff that I've seen that much. He's...
Getting that guy, they had a tough job because they already got the most punchable faced actor in the world for Norrington, and then they had to top it for Beckett.
I like Norrington.
But in the first movie, that's what he is, yeah? He's the guy you're not meant to like.
Yeah, he's the guy I just like the movie too much that as an antagonist, I love... No, sorry, go.
Yeah. It's just the presence of that actor and him, Jack Sparrow, like, you know what I mean? And then they had to top that, and they did it with Beckett. And he's this little guy.
Making him short is perfect.
He also looks so much like this political provocateur who was around a few years ago called Milo Yiannopoulos. And I firmly believe that both this character in this movie and this political provocateur, they both have this like very smarmy...
I was gonna say smarmy!
British a cocky, you're an idiot face. And I mean, he was on top of the world in like 2016 when Trump was running.
Right,
and it was all of the culture wars, and he was commenting on it, and he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he's kind of been banned off everything now.
He got cancelled.
There's an miles ahead. He is almost like a tragic. I don't even know if you would call it tragic. I'm just using that because it feels thematic. But he's like the archetypal ultimate provocateur. Like, what happens when you provoke everyone and no one wants to talk to you anymore?
Oh my God.
It's just funny because his face looks... there'll be a split screen image with both of them, and I think it's going to be hard to argue. It looks so similar.
Was this guy before, or do you think the casting was in...
There's no relation. It's just that their faces look so similar, and they both represent essentially the same. They're both just here to be a spanner in the works, and I suppose both get their comeuppance by the end.
I've just had a sudden thought, and I don't know, maybe you can just be like, hey, no, this and this. So Jack Sparrow in the first movie, he's like, let's shake hands to roll gentlemen. He's like, whoa, gotcha, you're a pirate. You got a pirate signature there.
He's the guy that did it.
Yeah, and he's the guy who did it because he's holding like a stabby prong
with
thing
left
with a
arm
P.
marks on
and
it.
And he's like, what mark did he leave on you? And it's like, but
do they have a scene together? Yes, but it's like 6 of them together.
Yeah. But the thing I was just thinking about, it was just like, okay, so this guy, you're a pirate, which implies he had him in custody at some point to pirate him. Well, was the next step to not just hang him?
It's just why he got away.
Yeah, I know, but I was okay.
I know what you mean.
No, but I was just something like, why would you even do that on people? If you have them to do that, wouldn't you just hang them?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Or is the pirate hanging like a
new thing?
A development that begins in the first movie? Because they do make a real point of.
It's implied they've been hanging pirates for forever though, because you've got the 3 that are skeletons.
Yeah.
That's 20 years of rot, isn't it?
I guess so.
Doesn't it take... but I guess maybe outside.
Out in sea.
I don't actually know anything. I just feel like I've seen stuff where they're like, well, this is like 2 years old. And you're like, that's not even that decomposed yet.
Yeah.
But then again, that's just a movie that I don't remember, written by some fuckhead who probably knows nothing either. And he's just like,
the prop guy just had this type of call.
He's like, I don't know. I forgot to read the script. This is good enough. Change the dialogue. Who cares? Another thing. The pirate hanging. Okay, so we're talking about trilogies. Last time, I think the reason we did pirates is last time you're like, Two Towers is a shit middle one. One, fuck you. No, that's not taking that.
You also agree.
No. It was an interesting discussion of the second Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, doesn't end on a down.
It's not a it's not a second.
It's up. They're all wins.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess the first one kind of a loss because they separate.
Second act.
Sorry, what did I say?
No, I said it. I said it's. So your first act, second act, third act structure.
Yeah, you have a trilogy.
It's followed almost perfectly
up,
with this.
Down, up.
Yeah.
Whereas Lord of the Rings is almost down at the first one, then up.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing. But you were saying Pirates of the Caribbean, perfect ending of 2.
Yeah.
Come here, you little beastie or whatever. So good. And the fact that like your female protagonist just like murdered, like I don't know, it's just such a cool and then that creates the tension of 2 that she's like can't tell anyone that she murdered Jack.
And the second act, the end of the second act, is commonly referred to by people who analyze structures of acts, of things, of stories, I should say.
Yeah.
Is the end of the second act is in the belly of the beast. And he's literally swallowed by... You know what I mean? So it's like in Empire Strikes Back. They go in the worm and then Vader captures him and he's in the web. Like, all of the...
Literally the belly of the beast.
And earlier in the film, it's literally him rescuing his father from the belly of the beast, which is the Flying Dutchman. Like, going into the depths and rescuing his father from... Yeah, like all of this stuff is the second movie is so second act.
It's
so unashamedly second act in every way, and the way it ends is
it's ended, but see the thing for me is I feel like movies, movies now, whatever. I'm just saying this, but it's like I feel like recently a lot of movies go second, and you're gonna cliffhanger it, and it's a cliffhanger for cliffhanger's sake without a knowledge of where we're going.
Yep.
2 feels like we're gonna eat him with a kraken because Davy Jones' locker, desert, singer. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that and go, what are they gonna do? I'm like they. You know, I feel like they're not.
I think what they said to themselves was, we've introduced an element so massive to this universe that it has to win. Like
what element? Sorry.
A kraken.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
It has to. I mean, you can't beat it. And then the only way to deal with it is like we can't have it in the 3rd film now because how the fuck are we gonna?
Well, then you're fucked because it's got to be have the government kill it.
Yeah. They order him to, yeah.
Yeah, no, the government orders him to kill it.
I don't know. Do you want that scene with it being killed? No. Because the scene of them finding it is...
Okay, so like, let's say, I'm like, we're going to kill the Kraken today. And you're like, how? I'm like,
He calls it with his...
He's like, hey man, do you want to bloody come over for lunch? And the Kraken, they're sitting there having tea, and the Kraken's like drinking tea, and then the Kraken's like, oh, poison! And die. Like, what are you going to do? The Kraken appear. You know what I mean? Like the Kraken, because the Kraken isn't there, and then it just takes down a ship. You
summon it to attack a boat, and then you detonate the boat.
Oh, like they do in 2.
Yeah. Which doesn't work.
I guess you just do that with the. I don't know, but you know what I mean.
The second one I realized this time as well is fucking retarded.
What plan?
Swing all of our explosives from a big net not on the ship with the Kraken below the ship and then detonate it, really only destroying our mast.
And the tentacles.
It doesn't make...
The tips of the tentacles.
You leave all the shit in the boat and then blow it up in the boat. Don't swing it in a big net.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah. I think maybe they were just like a bit fun visual.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
also Will being on the thing. I just remember this time being very frustrated. That,
on the what thing?
Like swinging on it and getting his leg trapped. I'm like, you didn't even need to be there. You went. There was no.
That's just
to add tension.
That's I think maybe.
Do you know what that whole sequence should be there and should fail and lead to Jack, but they kind of try and have their cake and eat it too.
They want to have a win, yay?
Yeah, I guess
I don't know. I guess I'm like struggling to have any proper like, what do you call it when you like openly criticize? Because like every time you say any of this, I'm like, fuck man, you're right. All these things happen. But you know what I saw? A whole bunch of cunts trying to kill some tentacle monster, and I just love it so much. I don't know.
I love the first attack, and it really does. Like earlier in the film, the first attack happens, and it just.
Oh yeah,
and then
you
the
don't
second
even know
one
what it
is
is.
just longer, and we get a lot more of it, and they have a bit more of an idea of.
I think the first one where you don't see it, that's fine. I actually think the CGI water's aged a bit, where you're like, oh, CGI water's really come a long way. But that second one, where there's 3 guys, and they're both like, and whoosh, and the guy's just like, yeah, Kraken! And then everyone's just running about the ship, fucking losing their minds. And it's kind of like tragic, because Will's like, just before it, he's like, oh, I've doomed us all. It's like, you fucking killed every single person on this ship. Yeah, and that's real sad. They never spend time with those moments, but it's really tragic that he got on that boat and they're all dead, and there were those fun guys we met before who got fooled by the stupidest shit in the world. You know what this movie does really fun? There's an aspect of Game of Thrones I always wish they did. Is in the books, Game of Thrones, the second battle, the Battle of Blackwater, when Loras arrives with Tywin on the horses, and in the books, he's wearing Renly's outfit, and everyone in the battle's like, oh my god, it's Renly's ghost, because they're all Stannis' boys. They're all the guys who fucking killed Renly.
Yeah.
And so they're like, it's his ghost, he's here to kill us. And the paranoia of the idea of Renly coming back in his armor as a ghost to kill them all freaks them all out, and it disrupts the battle.
Right.
But you can't put that in a show because the show's too real to have people be like, ghost! Ugh! But they're all fucking idiot peasant idiots. That's the world you live in.
Yeah.
And I love that this movie's like, these are all stupid pirate people. If a fucking dress just floated in the air, they wouldn't be like, what if it's on strings? They'd be like, what does it want? What's it trying to tell us? And they see fire and they're like, Tortuga. It's like, it's so stupid. But I genuinely think that's like a realistic, like, superstition they would have.
Yeah.
Bit filmy and silly, but I love that.
Especially in this universe of...
But the
literal.
and the tragedy of them then dying is like, I don't know, I really think Dead Man's, as soon as Dead Man's just started, I was like, I know this is not as good a movie. But I was like, I'm so in. Like, I just think that it's so
It's
cool.
just
such
I
a
think
good
with
movie.
half an hour trimmed.
Oh, see, I
and-
add half an hour. I just add more of him playing a piano with his fucking beard. Tentacle beard.
I love all that. I think there's just... I'm thinking of a very particular moment. When they're... I believe it's when they're sailing away from Jack in the ship, just as the Kraken, finally gets him at the end of Dead Man's Chest. Mm-hmm. And we cut to a shot of them on the boat looking at the Black Pearl sinking, and then we cut back to it, and then it cuts back again. Now, the first shot of them on the boat looking is artificially slowed down regular footage.
Right.
And then they cut to the Black Pearl, and then they cut back, and then they've got their good slow-mo shot that they should have just used and cut that other shot out completely. Basically, there's just a lot of little things like that where you shouldn't have cut there. You should have held on that shot and then cut to this better shot that you had. Because you didn't have that other shot, which is why you slowed it down. And I can tell you slowed it down because the frame rate was wrong and now it's jittery. And then when you slowed this shot down, it's not jittery because you filmed it right because you knew it would be slow-mo. Because these decisions you made here were, this is what I know the film is going to be. And then when you got into editing, you're like, oh, we want the sequence to be longer, so let's slow this shot down. Which you shouldn't have done. You should have stuck to your...
Yeah.
And now this is a massive... It's really one large production that's being edited into two separate theatrically released movies.
Oh, yeah, the movies too.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's why the third one is a little bit more polished because the whole production was a joint production and then they have less time to finish the second one than they do the third one. Which is why The Matrix Reloaded looks less polished than The Matrix Revolutions.
It feels like people are being too reactionary. We've both had a huge issue with the reactionary of Star Wars and Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Both of things that we're too close to, so it really hurts us. But it's like, it is insane. I don't know. So I'm two minds about it. Because a show like Lost, you're creating episodes and you're shooting it, but you're releasing while you're still shooting the season. So the world is like, hey, Nikki and Paolo suck. And I'm like, fuck them, they're wrong. But then I get my favorite part of Nikki and Paolo, which is the end, only brought about because everyone hated them and they reacted in time. Yeah. Game of Thrones was able to react and go, oh, everyone hated Dawn because we're terrible writers? Maybe we should cut that.
Yeah.
And try and focus on things we don't need to write that's already in the books. You know, and it's like, they have that, but then Game of Thrones reacted too far and went, oh, and Star Wars went, oh, and literally burnt their second movie and made a third movie from the ashes, disregarding everything because of reactions. So I don't know. Would third be a worse movie because they make two and everyone's like, boo, too Johnny Deppy. And they're like, oh, we can't have him talk to himself. Because everyone was like, he's too Johnny Deppy now. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah, would they have cut...
Would have they brought it down and changed it and then it would have just felt a bit odd.
Yeah.
Because it's reactionary. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Whereas I watch 1, 2, and 3 and...
They are at least what the creator set out to make.
There's an element in... You know what happened? Because you know why I like... When I rewatch stuff and I'm like, what is this that, really brought me in? And often I'm surprised by how much it is music and visual. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I rewatched Lost, I was like, the soundtrack's the greatest thing ever. Everything else is there, the story, the acting. But then I'm like, all I get to see it for 45 minutes, or 37 because they flash back, is just like beautiful green, lush island. And in this one, it's like set piece 1 is on an island of cannibals. One, I just love that. I love a culture that you don't understand that's like scary. And I'm sure there's people being like, oh, it's a racist interpretation of whatever. I don't give a shit about that. I love the idea of a cannibal culture. It's all green and lush and beautiful. And then the second one is on an island. You've got the beach. Then you move up into the jungle. You've got this beautiful, decrepit thing. I don't know, this building that they're just running about on, fighting. I just think the visual aesthetic of like all those things. And I had a point. I've completely forgot what I was saying now.
Well, a big part of what we love about entertainment is the space. This actually goes back to like something Jerry Seinfeld says about TV shows.
Uh-huh.
He says people like TV shows because they like the room, or they like the place that you're putting them in for an hour, half an hour, whatever it is.
Come back to that.
And they want to come back to this, and they want to feel the familiarity and the formula, and they want to, if they like the space, they'll come back for more of the space. And it doesn't matter what it is. It can be like Seinfeld. It can just be his apartment, or it can. But if they don't,
coffee shop.
Yeah, I just remember he has this long kind of meandering, monologue about why people love the space and why people love, and I think it's that whole package and what certain filmmakers do, especially when they find someone who can. I mean, really, the score is such a massive part of it, and the score helps.
So good.
The score helps like feed emotion where there might not otherwise be any, and like one thing I go back to is the little riff they play, the Calypso Davy Jones.
The what do you call those things you open as a little bell?
Music box.
A music box. The musical box feeling of the music.
It's a motif, yeah, and that runs all through the second and third movie. And every time we get a little Calypso Davy Jones love story type thing, we get a little bit of that riff, and it ties the whole thing together. And everybody has one of those. Ships have it, characters have it, the locations
and then
have it.
The action set piece gets the dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun,
Yeah.
dun-dun-dun. Yeah, the classic.
And the first movie earns it, and then the second and third movie get to benefit off it.
I think they get, so what I think 2 and 3 get to do is just have an action scene and just go, boop.
Yeah.
And you know what 4 was doing for me when I watched 1, 2, and 3 and just had the world I loved? The first action beat starts, and guess what? Johnny Depp's, like, there's a bit where he, like, throws, like, a thing on the ground, like a piece of paper. I was like, for later. Someone will slip on that. And then someone does. They slip, they fall out the window, and they're attached to the rope, and then that rope means that he's flying up here, and it's like, ba-da-dum, da-da-dum, dun-dun-dun-dun. And I was just sitting there being like, this is fucking sick. Because all you need is 75% of what you gave me before with the music, which brings it back up to 2 out of 10. Like,
and then if you
20
do
out of 10,
enough right, you've got me.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that the last 2 movies, they just didn't do enough.
Do you mean 4, 5?
There's good stuff there.
When you say it, do you mean 4, 5?
Yes, 4, 5.
I just want
5, not 2, 3.
You know, before, when I did a whole thing about colours and the visuals of greenness, and I mentioned Lost for a second and I forgot what I was saying, what I meant to say is, I was watching 2, and as soon as it starts, I'm like, I fucking love this movie. There's that guy screaming and crows are eating people's eyes, and you've got this prison world. And you're like, what I love about it is that, like, we start with this, like, creepy thing. You got all the cat. I don't know. I love when people are in cages and they're like, I'm touching you. Like, what's going on with all this stuff? And we get this guy. He gets brought into the world. We get these doors closed and there's this big torture castle. And we don't get to see inside. I think if you go inside, my interest is lost. But we stay outside as the doors close on us. Because I was just watching it, like, why do I like this? Because you're right, it's a shitty start compared to the first one. So I remember watching the start of the first one and being like, he's a pirate. He's like, I'm on a boat because I'm the greatest. But the ship's sinking because he's a washed up. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and
it's perfect.
So
it
much
really
less
is.
Expensive than the
Oh,
second
and
one.
But in the second one, it's like I don't know, it doesn't need to be as good. I don't really see it that way. I feel like the third one has that, which I might get to in a second. But it's like, we come down, and then some coffins just get thrown in the ocean. It's like, the corpses of this torture prison. And then it's like, bam, it's Jack. He shoots a bird. He's got the thing, and he's like, back to my boat. I did my thing. What I love about the start of movies is when they're like, we're doing a thing. My favorite part of Age of Ultron is the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because it's just the Avengers doing a thing. Doing what they do every day, doing the thing that you get when you watch a show like Buffy, where you get to see enough episodes of the weeks that you know what their day-to-day is.
Yeah.
So when you have the big moments, that you know what I mean?
You feel it.
It fleshes out the whole world. So I just love the start of sequels where you get to just see the world and people doing things in the world and all that stuff. So I just think that kind of mystery of it all, I don't know. I guess I just like that. And it's like, I don't think it needs to be the perfect intro that it is in the second. Although I think the third one tries to kind of like do that a bit, where it's like, they're all like, where's Johnny Depp? The desert. Oh. And then it's just like, the character's like, oh, Witchy Jack, he's bloody, he's coming. Just look over there. And the music swells, you got your pirates music. And his fucking ship is like surfing down sand and he's like standing there at the top. And I kind of like that as a bookend to it because you have that one, the next one, which is kind of a lesser. So it's like up, down, and then up on this kind of rising out of purgatory itself, riding a ship but not sunken. And I don't know. I think when you look at all three of them, even though the third one, you do actually introduce him with his nose, sniffing the peanut and shooting himself and stuff. Yeah. But that's kind of almost different. I feel like the proper intro is him sailing down into the first scene with all the characters. There's a moment in 2 where I went, this is I think this is why people hate it. Johnny Depp is running away from cannibals and he picks up some paprika and
then sprinkles it on his armpit.
You know when you watch something and you know the last time you watched it, you liked the joke, and then you're watching it being like, why do I...
Is this inexcusable? So
it's not the paprika bit specifically. It's the bit just after that or just before that where he's got a pole on his back, he's tied up, and he's like being attacked by 2 women throwing fruit at him. I distinctly remember thinking, that's hilarious. It's a fruit kebab because he was going to get cooked alive. He's now a kebab. And this time looking at it being like, I don't really know how to feel about any of this. Because he's like, stop! And they're like, and he's like, and there's a wide shot where he's there and it's all shish kebabs and he's like, and I could be wrong, but I'm not wrong. Put the footage up. He just looks right at the camera and goes, I'm a kebab, I guess, or something. And it's just like...
Then he runs. He makes an impossible jump.
I don't mind that, though.
The fact that he makes it, and then...
That makes me laugh. But it's so funny, because he lands, but then he's like... And he falls, and then... I don't know.
The weight of the fruit pushes him down, and then he falls down the thing.
That is the same as in King...
What would that sequence look like if it was done in the first movie, though? Not like that.
Just not like that.
Not like that at all. He would have been like accidentally tied to the thing and it would have propelled him over to the other side. It would have been more believable.
The thing that I didn't realise when I watched the first movie is that every fight scene has an element of what everyone hates about pirates.
It's just not at 11. It's at
9 to 10. No. It's always at 9, and 2 and 3 mostly take it to 11, and then immediately in 4 it's like 12, and it doesn't.
But the first one, the situation with Elizabeth and him getting out of that after he rescues her, it's probably as equally implausible as the fruit thing.
It's just a better... Oh no, the fruit thing is dumb. It's a dumb... No, the fruit thing is he's on a stick like a kebab. He's the chicken in the middle. Put the fruit like you put a capsicum and the onion.
It's why...
It's a stupid visual gag. I hate 2 elements. I hate an element of every movie. The first movie, she does a corset gag at the end. She's like, bah! Try wearing a corset. And it's like, that's no good. That's a line from the movie it was before it became one of the most iconic classics ever. That's why I don't know if the script really is the best script ever.
It's just tight.
No, it is a perfect script. But a perfect script can still have shitty one-liners and things because I'm just making an action pirate movie.
Yeah.
But then everything else comes on board and everything else is perfect. And then that one shitty action line literally just hits me over the head. I'm like, whoa!
What movie was that from?
Because the rest of the dialogue's so perfect. Like, just before he does the fight scene, he's like, I'm the most untrustworthy person in the world. The untrustworthy people are the most trustworthy because you always know I'm going to be untrustworthy. Trust me. But the trustworthy people aren't the trustworthy ones because you never want to know when a trustworthy person will be untrustworthy. And then he's like, I'm being untrustworthy. And it's like, it's fucking good.
Yeah.
And then the second one, shish kebab, not dialogue, but it's a written bit. There's a bit in the turns. I think each one gets worse and worse. Like there's just that one moment where I'm like, oh, I don't like that. But I think when I get so angry about one scene in a movie, it shows you how tight a movie is. Things we've not discussed. Do you like the monkey?
Oh, the undead monkey.
Jack the monkey.
The best use of the undead monkey in the whole trilogy is when he takes it to Tia Delma to sell it to her. Pulls the cage up and goes, undead monkey, and then shoots it and throws it on the table, and it's just like... That is so good.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic. And then she's like, done.
takes the monkey.
Of course she would take it.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
like
yeah.
a god, the god of the ocean trapped in human form, and he just brought her this like crazy thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll add it to my house of trinkets. Yeah.
What I also love is that they've trapped a goddess in the body of a woman 1 billion years ago or whatever. 200, I don't know.
No. Well, they...
Ages ago.
But they were all alive when it happened, yeah?
No.
No? The pirates who trapped her?
No.
Or they've just passed on?
No, it's a generation passed on. Because
Right.
Shao Fang is
They say-
like, I'm dead, pass on the trinket of magic.
So, well then how long has Barbossa's dude with the eye been with him?
Oh, fuck. Oh, well, I don't know if the... Oh, this doesn't make sense.
No, because they were only...
I actually hate
they
that
were
as
only
well,
on
'cause
dead
that-
for a decade.
That eye is a gag for us, the audience, because remember Pirate from the first one where his eye was falling out? And what if that's the magic? That is so stupid. Barbossa wouldn't entrust the most magical thing to some fuckhead whose best friend is the first cunt he murders. He's like, we're no longer undead. The first thing he is to kill
But
his best... So what?
They do
I don't
say in
know.
the movie that all of these objects are just what they had laying around at the time. Because, like, that is
But
kind
would
of a
you-
joke in the movie.
No, but would you then entrust the thing you do? Oh, so what you're saying is that
I
pirate
guess
was
if you-
there without the eye?
If you
It's
don't care about her ever becoming human again, why not? Just give it to that guy.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, that...
We're either misremembering something or the
I swear it's at least
logic
200 to
of-
500 years. Because
Well, they say that only 4 pirate things have been convened.
I like that. The first one to trap her, 2 for mysterious pirate reasons, and the 4th one for this. I like that. That's a cool, like... I love when the world's kind of opened up with that just... Why did they have those other 3? I mean, the first one was presumably to fuck Calypso up and capture her? To create this pirate world?
Yeah.
Did they, like... I don't know.
I suppose a metaphor is that taming the chaos of the ocean through the ship.
Yeah.
Essentially is what they did. The ship and being able to voyage the ocean is how they metaphorically tamed it, and they've just literally done it in the
Then
movie.
they like... But then like that woman who's like... She knows she's the sea goddess. She remembers Davy Jones and all this shit, but she's also like... I'll just be like a weird shaman witch in like someplace.
Well, what do you do if you're...
Oh
a
yeah,
god?
no, but it's kind of
Yeah.
funny because it's like she does all these weird things and like everyone's like aware of her as this like witch doctor character and like
So Johnny Depp knew... sorry,
they
Jack
had
Sparrow
sex.
knew...
They fucked. That's
he knew
implied.
she was
He's like,
a
I
god.
thought I knew you pretty well. And she's
Yeah.
like, because they're flirty and all that stuff. It's I don't know. It's such a weird thing to like think she's the sea goddess. I think what I also found interesting because Davy Jones. We'll talk about him for a bit until I forget.
Looks
it.
great.
He looks so good. He's got the weird bulbous thing at the end. The tentacles, the one smoking, and
He has a tentacle beard.
the tentacle beard. It's just someone goes, oh, he's like bearded his beard, or someone just went crack and I don't know. Just that is such a genius thing. His whole squid thing. I was googling Davy Jones.
There's no squid stuff until
They created Davy Jones like this.
Yeah.
It's one of the coolest things in the
He's
world.
just a
It's
ghost, yeah. Generally, in the
just some
mythos.
fucking demon. There's this
Yeah.
thing I was reading where it's like he's got big eyes like saucers, 3 rows of teeth, blue steam coming out of his nostrils. Like
Just crazy.
just weird. He's just the devil of the ocean.
Yeah.
I was reading and I was reading and
My only
I
reference is SpongeBob SquarePants.
I was just about to say I was reading online and it occurred to me as I was reading. I was like, there's fucking nothing has really used Davy Jones. I'm only fully aware of him as a thing because Pirates of the Caribbean combined the Flying Dutchman, a ship that can never port or go to port or whatever, with Davy Jones locker as Purgatory. And the only other thing I can think of, and as I was Googling, it's like one of the only other things ever, is SpongeBob SquarePants having Davy Jones locker be an actual gym locker just with gym socks. And it's like, I don't know, man. To be like, all right, we got the devil of the sea. He's on a ship that can never land. And then to create this thing where it's like, okay, Davy Jones had to do a magic thing where he ferries everyone and going, okay, so he'll do that but for 10 years and he gets 1 day. So, but what if he went to that 1 day? He's like 10 years of being doing this awful fucking job and then going to meet his girl and she just didn't rock up and it breaks him. he breaks. He spent 10 years doing a thing for one day and it didn't work out.
And then he says, fuck it, essentially, yeah?
Fuck it, I'm not taking anyone back to the fucking ocean. I'm not going to take them to...
I'm
not ferrying
to
cunts
the other
anymore.
side.
Fuck that shit. I'm going to be a squid boy and just murder people. And then make them all weird crustacean monsters.
Well, everyone gets a sea animal that attaches to their face. So one guy gets a hammerhead shark.
I love this. The
the fish eel.
The eel where he's like smaller. Sometimes he gets bigger.
He bites a guy's head in one, and then he tries to do it in another time, and someone cuts his head off.
Yeah. Barbossa gets him good. I think it's Barbossa.
There's also like Shell Boy, whose his face is the arse of like a hermit crab.
Yeah.
It does.
It is.
That's what I mean. I said before, the most horrific ramifications of any of these sea people are that man came to a point where he realized not only is his face the arse of a hermit crab, but it can detach and be independent of his body.
And the body is independent of him, where he's like, body, come back, and the body's like, nah, I got the chest, I'm all good, bro.
Which is great. The magic of the Flying Dutchman means that your body parts can literally just be anywhere and continue existing, and you continue to be a human. Your brain just sticks to the side of the ship, and then your face and that guy who's been there forever detaches from it, and it's like sections of himself.
Part of the crew, part of the ship,
and then
part of the crew,
it's so,
part of the ship.
I love that. I love the aesthetic of the Flying Dutchman. I love that it's covered in barnacles and stuff.
Everything is so disgusting and slimy, and there's a bit where they all get healed, and they're all walking, and it is such a cool shot of their feet, and the slime, and they're all just so slimy, and it's just because there's just, I don't know, the idea that...
It takes that first movie, very simple undead pirate theme, and then runs with it and goes, all right,
well,
now they're undead and they've been under the ocean doing pirate shenanigans.
I just love it because they're just like, okay, under a boat in the ocean, barnacles look like this, they do this kind of thing. Yeah. And then he goes, okay, he's got a kraken, so he'll be Kraken Man, Kraken Beard. What do we do? Hammerhead, Eel, Shellman. Yeah, and they just do all of it, and I think them just being there, you know, I don't want them to be characters, and I like that every single character is CGI except for the one character that's character, and he's a real man with a fucking starfish, a starring in his bloody face. I hated him.
He got the worst sea creature on his face, by the way.
Disgusting.
Well, I mean, just the most useless. I feel like the hammerhead gets a thing.
Yeah,
the
he's a
pufferfish
gets
it. Like everyone gets a thing, and he just got a starfish.
But that's
Also, I will say that
he disgusts.
I might disagree with what you just said about the practical nature of him. I think that Davy Jones looks fantastic. He looks really good for the most part. But there is one or two scenes where his makeup doesn't look as good as the rest of the movie.
Do you think though,
particularly
it's because they're all CGI, so they all have a feel and a vibe,
certainly.
He just stands the fuck out? Because that's my issue.
Davy Jones has the practical element are the eyes, and they might be CGI'd over the top, but Bill Nighy had the makeup done and the eyes, and that reference grounds the whole thing. So that the rest that's CGI, it's so inhuman that it works, and they've done. I mean, I think that CGI squid is something that they've been able to do really well for a long time. Yeah. And they just... It's something about the
As the main character as well, or the villain, I think he's probably given 10% more money on time.
Probably way more.
Oh, yeah, I'm just...
And then all of the supporting guys are stunt people in motion capture suits, and they're essentially 100% animated. Everything's animated. Eyes, face, all of it is animated over the top of, like, no reference. And then you've got a wholly practical guy, and then you've got a real guy. So I mean, when you have Will and all of them in this, like the three of them at the table doing the betting thing, and all the CGI guys around them, it works. I like that works for me, but I think they might have benefited from having just a couple more practical elements thrown in with the background guys that would have sold all of it.
And I think that is simply a case of being like, all right, let's look at it as a production just go like...
So much to do.
extras, like side fish boys, just make them all CGI.
Yeah.
If we pick and choose, we're overcomplicating because we picked Dad Man because he has scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
on
see.
a film
You
set,
can see the practicality.
Yeah,
of it all.
yeah. No, but I totally agree. But then again, part of me is truly baffled. Just, I don't know, man. It's like, when Davy... What also, just before I get into... Just me being like... Which I'm presuming the podcast is mostly me doing that. You trying to edit it down. But when Davy Jones gets introduced, it's like a man who's bleeding and all... Just a real, human being. And when Davy Jones appears, I just was like... I don't know. I was like... He looks more real. He just looks so good. I just feel like I can... I felt... This is going to sound really gross, but it's I felt like if I licked his tentacles, I would get that, tasty, seaweedy, slimy... You know what I mean? I proper felt it. When he brings out the key, is the key real? See, it doesn't matter. It's all so real. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know
I'm completely full.
The Corridor Crew visual effects team on YouTube talk a lot about what sells visual effect, and I think one thing that they talk about a lot that really works here is what's known as specular highlights. So highlights on people's faces, and you talked about it with Thanos' stubble. Certain areas of skin or texture catch more light.
Right.
And, right now you are lit and you have a light. There's a light there and there's a light there. So this side of your face is more lit than this side.
Yeah.
Now the light's pretty even in here, but on a ship at nighttime, the light hitting one side of the face, you're actually going to overexpose part of it and it will be pure white. And Davy Jones has those overexposed, what is essentially an imperfection of a normal camera. Right. They've added to the visual effect. Yeah. They've blown the highlights on areas of the face that should be blown, and that adds so much more to the whole effect.
The things that make me go, it's real. I'm not noticing what it is.
It's the imperfections and them matching it to the real people who are there on the day and just it all coalescing really, really well. One thing I think the first movie does that the second and third just don't really do at all is the underwater photography. The underwater photography in the first film is exceptional.
Yeah.
And adds so much. There's so many sequences underwater. It's lit. It looks beautiful. Underwater tanks typically look really shit. And I notice a lot of the time where I'm like, I can see the back wall of that thing. I can see the pool you're shooting in. And the first movie, I mean, there's not really any underwater sequences in 2 and 3.
I was literally just trying to go through it as you're speaking.
And if there are, I think they're CG, which is what... And
you might be either in 4 or 5, the whole final act of one of them is oceans closing in underwater, and it's
5
really bad.
Yeah,
at least my memory.
And Javier Bardem is underwater, but not underwater.
He's always underwater, isn't he? He's got that vibe, but it's just CGI. You've got a trilogy. The first movie, all your characters introduced, and then in 2 you introduce Davy Jones, new bad guy, and Beckett, new bad guy. The third one, I think some people might think you don't necessarily need to introduce an element, but I love that we get a whole character with Chung Fao? No. But
Chow Yun Fat?
Yeah. Is that the actor's name maybe?
Yeah.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
I really, really like him, and I always feel like he's in way more of the movie. Yeah. But before how I was saying pirates are rapists and murderers, but they totally get rid of that. He thinks Keira Knightley's Calypso, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna release you. Before that, I'm gonna rape you though. It's like, what the fuck? I don't know, man. I keep watching these movies because, I don't know, for me, these are movies for 10-year-olds. Because when I watched it when I was 10 or 11, whenever it came out, it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. And I remember watching The World's End when I was maybe in year 12, year 13, so 18, 19. I kind of feel like what's that part where I'm 12
or 13?
No, so when I was year 12. So when I was about 18, 19, rewatching it.
Oh.
Rewatching it with a mate and his, his mum's partner's son or whatever, who was 10, and he was still and I was like, it's kind of fun, but it's a bit dumb, and it seems like it's maybe targeted. I don't know, when you're at or at least I was at that teenage phase where I'm like, oh, Lord of the Rings, it's a bit black and white, and and I'm more oh, Game of Thrones, they kill people, it's sick, Game of Thrones was really cool, but it's you know, it's like I wanted something a bit grittier. I wanted Nolan's Batman, not the other shitty Batman. You know, it's like I was in that period of time. And I just remember watching the Pirates movies and watching 3 with that guy, with this younger guy, and just being like, no, it's for these kind of people. That's because he thinks it's the greatest thing. But I think maybe I've just matured to that point where it's like, no, I will like anything. You know, I don't have to. I'm not like, I'm a cool boy. I can't like Lady Gaga. I'm a teenage boy. You know, it's like, so I think maybe that was a bit, but rewatching it and then just noticing these tiny lines, like I remember watching the movie and being like, oh, this and that, but he goes to fucking rape her and then he's murdered and then he's like, forgive me, and she's like, okay. I'd be like, fuck you! You random dude.
Push that log into his chest.
Yeah. Beat the shit out of him. He's a fucking... Yeah, I don't know. That I was like, I don't know. Do you need to bring this weird... I don't know. It was just an interesting choice considering they've really decided not to... Like, even the murder is all bloodless murder. Like, a lot of the pirates killing, you know, in the first one, he's like, let's fight the undead zombies. And they've got no hope.
No.
They're all just getting murdered, and it's really brutal, but it's bloodless. It's good enough for a 10-year-old. I just remember thinking this time, I was like, holy shit, fuck that cunt.
That being said, though, there is at times like really dark shit, like the torture sequence at the beginning. I remember being like,
which torture bit?
The very start, the introduction of Jack, and you see like the big torture place, and there's like people in cages.
Oh yeah,
like
right.
There's shit going on where
the
I'm
torture
like,
castle.
Oh, this is super dark.
I think the start of 2 is
there's
really
moments like that throughout where the connotations of things going on are like
really... I suppose that's the same as when you watch a kids film and you're like, oh, that's an adult sex joke or whatever. Oh, my 10-year-old self never noticed.
The Simpsons. Everyone in Australia watches Simpsons every night at 6 p.m. and then we all grew up and went, what?
Oh, it's actually funny.
Yeah. Now I know why so many parents are like, no, you're not watching. But
it goes over your head because you need
those parents didn't realize their kids were too stupid to figure it out. And when they do figure it out, it just is like this.
They're old enough to.
And it's a light bulb moment. You're like, oh, and you kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
Kids are smarter than you give them
Oh
credit
no, 100%. But there's certain things that just completely wouldn't even consider, and then you go, oh, it's this.
Yeah.
But
it's like the idea of rescuing your father from the belly of the beast. It's like something you see in film after film after film, but until someone articulates it in that exact way,
literally 20 minutes ago,
you don't realize that it's in everything all the time, and that everyone is constantly referring back to this like template of storytelling, which is I think what this trilogy really does well. It understands that 3-act structure, and it very faithfully it goes through all the motions. And I think maybe since Pirates there hasn't been a big joint 2-part production until Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
It was kind of the last one.
It's very similar when you think about how they did it.
And the only real comparison you've got is Back to the Future, and then to a lesser extent, because they weren't the same production, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
That's kind of different. I say that as
they're not one production, but it is 2 and 3. And
yeah, it has that classical trilogy up, down, up.
Yeah, second, third act breakup.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was 2 separate productions, and I think what you get there is that I think where Pirates 2 and 3 feel a lot closer to each other, 2 and 3 are kind of as good as each other. Maybe you like one a bit more than the other, but
for certain reasons that would just be personal.
Yeah, like I can pick this, and this out of the third one that I love, and this out of the second one. But they both probably have as much good and bad going for them, where I would rate them about equal.
Yeah.
Maybe
so 2 for me would be so much higher up. But the 2 sequences that I love are there's a 40-minute action scene where everyone's just like, I want the MacGuffin for this reason. And the other character's like, you fucking shut up. I want the MacGuffin for this reason. And everyone's reason is totally sound, totally justified. And I understand where everyone's coming from. And then they literally have a moment where a character is like, what's going on here? And the character's like, wow. And then you just sums up everyone's things. Yeah. And I just feel like that, what do they call it? Hanging the lampshade on. I often don't agree with people saying that just being like, hey, this scene is stupid the Force. Yeah, I don't think that necessarily saves something, but this time, it totally just makes me go, this is fantastic. I just love them being so aware of how insane the moment is.
The best hanging the lampshade moment ever is Austin Powers 2.
Wait a tick. Basil, if I travel back to 1969 and I was frozen in 1967, presumably I could go visit my frozen self. But if I'm still frozen in 1967, how could I have been unthawed in the 90s and traveled back to, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed?
I suggest you don't worry about this sort of thing and just enjoy yourself. That goes for you all, too.
Yes.
They're like, we're doing time travel, this is a dumb comedy, none of this makes sense, and we can't work out the plot stuff, but you don't care, because you're watching
I don't care.
a
I've seen
James
that
Bond
movie,
comedy.
and I don't care,
But it's the perfect, like, he just looks at the camera and goes, don't fucking worry, it doesn't matter, you don't need to think about this here, because this is not what you're really after.
Yeah. I think, okay. That's
love
pretty
that
fantastic. But I would just put a emphasis on that, saying like, I feel like because it's a parody comedy, it's allowed to do those things, and it can be bad or good, it doesn't matter. Also, just this is totally random, and I don't really want to get into Austin Powers, I barely remember. But the idea of making a parody thing of something that I feel is almost kind of a parody, like Casino Royale, James Bond, what's his name? Daniel Craig, isn't really a parody. I would argue probably Pierce Brosnan isn't. But those other fucking... They're not intentionally, but he's so stupid and dated and old now. Watch Roger Moore and fucking tell me it doesn't feel like a parody.
But is that
itself.
because of Austin Powers, partly?
No.
No,
like James Bond is like...
No, I think Daniel Craig is a direct reaction to Austin Powers.
Maybe. Well, then Austin Powers is good that we got that for this.
Yeah, they went, you literally pointed out everything wrong with all of this.
But
we now can only go so far the other way.
But James Bond is the thing where he's like, female character that I'm going to have sex with is a bit dangerous and infantile. Your name is Octopussy.
Yes.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
You can't then make a joke of a joke. My name's a lot of vagina or whatever the fuck. That's the joke already. It's already the joke in James Bond. You're making a parody movie that's all... I hate it. I actually hate Austin Powers. It's been so on... So we had a short break, and I realized something we said before. I changed my mind on. So you're going to have to keep that bit in. Or whatever. I don't give a fuck. We said before, and I was strongly on the point of, the dad, Jack Sparrow's dad...
Keith Richards.
Bloody rock and roll man or whatever. From whatever band. I don't know.
Know.
Metallica? He's from Metallica, right? I don't who cares. No, it's Led Zeppelin. I'll just keep trying to name bands I know he's not from. Oh, he's from them. I don't care.
Limp Bizkit. What you're looking for.
Why? It's so amusing to me. So offensive to Limp Bizkit.
Or to him?
Yeah. He says, he references sea turtles and that's no good. Because he's like, I need keys for the book or whatever. And the dog comes out. The dog from the first one. From
the second one. No, the first one. The jail.
From the first one. From the theme park ride.
Yeah.
The dog with the keys and all the men being like, hey, we need the keys. Yeah, the second movie's rape joke is that they're all like, and it pans out instead of trying to get the keys. Because there's bars and their hands are coming out being like, give me the keys, dog. And in the second one, it's Elizabeth. And it's like, oh, that's a weird rape joke.
Doesn't that dog end up on the cannibal island and that's the post-credits of the second
No, so what happens is, they're all getting on the ship and Orlando Bloom's like, hey, no, we can't leave without Jack. I'm here for Jack and the compass. And then Jack comes running out of the thing and he's like, hey. And then it cuts back and there's like 100 cannibals chasing him. Jack's like, so good. Running, and they're all like, ah! And he's like on the boat being like, also great reoccurring gag where he's like, this is the time you almost caught, and he gets whacked with water.
Jack Sparrow.
His performance there is so good. I love that line. He gets on the boat, and then all the cannibals are like, no! Dog. And the dog's like, Roop! And it runs off. And then the post-credit scene, like the first one, the monkey, being like, I'm still cursed. The dog is like, I'm still dog. I don't know. The dog's there and he's the king. In the third movie, Keith Richards from Limp Bizkit, he's like, hey, here's my dog. He's got the key. And the two pirates who had the dog and escaped from prison with the dog, in the second one, are both like, huh? The dog? And he's like, sea turtles.
Oh, yeah.
Although, before, when I couldn't remember exactly why I said sea turtles, and in the movie, it actually annoyed me. I was like, oh, fuck you! God, I hate Limp Bizkit. Maybe that's the reason I don't like this scene. I'm gonna try and swipe away my love of music. But to amuse my own shit joke. I don't know. I was just thinking about it though, and I feel like that's kind of funny because the dogs here. I mean, the dog being there, I think, is ridiculous and stupid. The dog got eaten by the cannibals.
Yep.
Like 25 minutes. Like during Dead Man's Chest, it would have been eaten. But okay, it didn't. It escaped. But how did it escape?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think when I was sitting by myself for a bit, for some reason I was thinking about it, and I kind of like the idea that he knew the dog escaped in an absurd circumstance. So he's like, sea turtles.
Because he said sea turtles, and then Jack stole it off him, and then said sea turtles.
So maybe that's just his thing. How did you do this crazy thing?
Sea turtles. Yeah.
But what really so I've turned back on it again as I'm explaining to you, because those two pirates know that they had the dog with the keys from the prison and on the island. He doesn't know. He hasn't talked to Jack. He hasn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can't be like, well, maybe him and his dad talk. No. He fucking hasn't seen him for years. It's implied by the way they interact.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know. I was just thinking of like Revenge of the Sith, where it's like, well, maybe there's a animated sequel series that totally disregards all continuity.
Yeah.
And doesn't give a fuck.
And fixes it. I don't know how it can do both though. It either disregards the continuity or it fixes it.
Yeah, I can't really, I don't know. But so I was just thinking about that. I'm like, that's really fun and cool, but it's not. His scene in 4 is real bad. I feel like I briefly mentioned it, but I didn't really get to it, where he's like, he says in the 4th one, like Jack Sparrow's first action sequence where he's like talking to the king's Mr. Dursley, and he's like, there's a bit where Geoffrey Rush is like, I'll go get him because he escaped, and he's like, and it's like,
I remember so little of the 4th one.
Yeah,
It's crazy
it's
because
crazy.
I remember so much of the first 3.
It's like it's 1, 2, 3, but then 1, 2, 3, 4 is really like, it's just the music and the main dude doing this.
Ugh. Have you heard which it does make sense. I was trying to look for it as much as I could in these 3 movies.
Yeah.
The idea that Jack has he's got sea legs. So whenever he's on a boat, he walks normally. And whenever he's on land, he's kind of fucked up because he's used to being on the sea.
But that's not even the reasoning behind.
Yeah, it's because he got left in the sun and his brain's fried, yeah?
Well, the first movie implies that it's because he was trapped on an island by himself. Mutineered, but we find out he was there for 3 days getting drunk.
Yeah.
So that's a lie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Part of my brain loves
He's
the
just a
idea that
weirdo.
he just does it.
Yeah.
He just is like that. And I don't know. I feel like...
But you do get attuned to being on a boat, and you do walk differently to balance yourself. And you see when people first got on a boat, it's very disorienting.
I hate
and they get sick. I've never had it, but...
No, it's a thing. I've caught long boat rides before, and I fucking hate it.
Your sense of balance is all off. So
it's just fucking shit, man.
The idea is that the reverse is true for Jack because he's always on the ocean. So when he's on land, his balance is off and he's a little bit... What? And then when he's on a boat, he actually walks quite confidently. And it did seem... Yeah.
Maybe that's... That could be it.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, I guess that's fun. I feel like I just like it. That's just him. He is how he is. He's this enigma. He's got, I don't know. He reminds me of I had the character in my mind, but it's gone. You might know who I'm talking about. But he's just full of shit. You know, like all his backstory is a lie. He's not really anything except for what he does when he's there. But what we actually see him do is quite strategic and tricky. And like, he's quite a clever guy. But I feel like...
But he also fucks everyone over so much.
Oh, he's a monster.
He ends up always getting fucked over. Because he doesn't trust anyone, no one trusts him, and yeah.
Do you like the reset at the end of 3? Because what I realised this time at the end of 3, which hadn't fully occurred to me, but he wakes up and he's got like the 2 babes and he's like, babes, I'm going to go back to my boat and it's...
gone, yeah.
It's gone. And then Barbossa's sitting there and they're all like, oh, we don't really feel great about this, but you said something about our fountain of what? And he's like... Yeah, and they've all fucked each other over. Yeah. But it's like, I can't really think of too many franchises that just goes, boom, end of the 3rd movie, resets it. If we start at 4, we could just start with Jack Sparrow being like, have you heard of the Black Pearl? You could almost just, you could do a soft reboot at 4. which is kind of what 5 is, which is kind of weird, you know?
Yeah.
Because
5 was the attempt to do
because
that.
they tried to bring back a Will and Elizabeth-esque character
And then
by
they-
bringing Will's son, right?
They do the post-credit scene again. So did you watch the post-credit scene of 3? At World's End?
No.
So post-credit scene,
I stopped.
we see Elizabeth with a 10-year-old boy at the beach.
Oh,
looking
really?
at the horizon. Flash. Boat appears.
Oh!
He comes back. And then they do it again in the 5th movie, but it's 20 years, not 10.
And that's why he's a 20... I can't like that. No, so that's beautiful to end the 3rd movie on a flat, because you could go...
I think they should have saved it though, just so that they never did anything so that they could come back and do that whenever. Okay. But it doesn't matter.
But take it as a fuck 4 and 5. I'm Gore Verbinski. I want my 3 movies to end. You know what Davy Jones does and why you need to have her waiting? Oh, actually, I'm really annoyed I didn't see this. I think that's fucking sick. Because Davy Jones for me is a villainous fucking monster who eventually by the end of the 3rd one, I'm like, he's just like a real sook about his emotions and I don't know, he's just like a little bit of a, I don't know. It's fascinating to me. He's just this, like at one point he's like getting real angry. I'm like, you're just having a sook because someone like burns you. We've all been in love. We've all been burnt. Take a deep breath. Like we've all made rash decisions. I jumped to America. I was like, I'm going to Vietnam. You know, we've all done crazy things where we're like, I'm doing a rash decision because I'm
just
heartbroken.
imagine you going to Vietnam and you're also an immortal squid man. Yeah, would it be worse?
I just think that he goes, I'm going to 10 years of this thing, and then he's heartbroken and destroyed because he did this thing. So I just love the idea that Will has decided to do this, and us as viewers know them as characters, so we go, she will wait. Or she'll be there in 10 years. But I like the idea that we actually visually show that to reincorporate that he's like Davy Jones, but done right. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying with that? I think that's really cool because the other 2 post-credit scenes, I remember the first time I realized on my DVD, I had a DVD of Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, and it was like called the Lost Disc edition or something, and it had 2 discs, and the whole second disc was a lost disc of behind the scenes.
I remember back in the era of DVD special features and
so exciting
finding Easter eggs.
Oh my god, it's so cool! It seems so like
antiquated now.
I was gonna say trivial. Yeah.
I remember on the Star Wars prequel Blu-ray, if you pressed a series of 4-digit numbers, you could get a dancing Yoda video. What? Break dancing Yoda.
Like a
from
CGI.
episode 3, yeah. Like breakdancing. You'll be able to find them all on YouTube now.
Never seen that.
But I remember putting the 4 numbers in. Someone told me about it, and they're like, put the Revenge of the Sith DVD at that point, and press these numbers, and it'll work. And it did. And I was like, holy shit. Because normally what it was you would click onto another button. So you would have like play, special features, subtitles, and whatever. And you would like click. And then the animation would go onto the selected option.
Yeah.
And then occasionally it would, you would press the right button and it would go onto something else that wasn't an option.
Oh, I don't even...
You never found anything like that? So I'm trying to think of like what Blu-rays or like I feel like the Mummy Blu-ray had stuff like that. You know what I mean? Where you would find a secret thing.
That's so cool. No, do you remember that? I feel like maybe that was in the exact same period. I could be totally wrong, right? But the same period as when all bands were like the last song in the album will just stop for 4 minutes.
And there's another
and
song.
then there'll just be another song. It's like, just
like,
what the fuck? It makes me so angry now. But I used to be so excited because it would pause like, the song stop, there's 5 minutes left. And then suddenly the guitar will come. I'm like, a bonus secret track? Fucking stupid. But I feel like that was at the same kind of period of time.
Yeah, it was.
Just before that all exploded, and I felt like I knew what the internet was.
Well, then
all kind of cold. I was a bit behind with the internet.
Rip an entire DVD from a disc onto your computer, and it would just take all of the individual video
I
files
saw my
off it.
friend do that for the first time in grade 7. I was like,
so if you got the Revenge of the Sith Blu-ray and put it in and like extracted all the video files on it, you would see the Dancing Yoda video file on there.
oh wow! Right,
but it's just that to select it, you have to do a very specific thing. That's
wild. You know, just in talking of all this stuff, you know, I noticed when this movie started, and it just reminded me of a time before, like, just, I don't know, a time when DVDs were the thing. It's like, I would watch Pirates of the Caribbean, but I wouldn't watch the whole movie. because there was this crazy thing that I feel like I've emotionally forgotten about, which is scene selection.
Oh, yeah.
Revenge of the Sith and Pirates of the Caribbean. So before I was probably up to like 12, 13, I only watched Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and probably Pirates of the Caribbean and Wallace and Gromit. And there's probably one other thing.
Yeah.
But it's like just those things on repeat every day, all day. And I just remember, like, for instance, in Pirates of the Caribbean 1, it's like got the sweeping dun-dun-dun, and he's like on the boat, and it's like dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, and his boot hits the thing. That's the scene selection. I could be wrong, but I just remember being like, skip, skip, skip.
You get to learn where certain...
And it's like I always remember it's like a scene would start in Revenge of the Sith. And that's for me, that was always the biggie where I never realized until I was an adult. It's like, oh, I skipped all the scenes of romance because it was like, boo, I'm 12, fuck girls. Yeah, they got cooties or whatever.
You skip every Revenge of the Scene thing to the lightsaber fight.
It starts, it's like, skip, ship. That was a fun landing, whatever he says. Yeah. And then it's like, skip. And then it's Kashyyyk. And it's like, Kashyyyk.
Yeah.
Stay for a bit.
Grievous fight.
yeah. And then it gets to something else.
Mace Windu, Emperor.
And then there's a bit where he's like, there's the opera. Skip. Yeah.
If I'm feeling a bit deep that day, I might watch the opera scene where he convinces him.
No, too much talking.
Oh,
Boo!
I love that. I love that.
I actually generally skipped every time anyone talked and was just straight to the action, which I never really thought about until I remember watching them again. Just that, I think it was the day after I discovered what like Mr. Plinkett was, and just those things, and just like those reviews, and just being like, oh my god, I have to rewatch these movies now, and then being like, oh my god, this is why I skipped them. Even as a 10-year-old, I knew. But Pirates of the Caribbean was that same. It was just like a couple of skips. I was just thinking in terms of, do you think that Pirates of the Caribbean is just continually diminishing returns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because my favourite one is probably 1. There's elements of 2 that I like more, and I like rewatching it more. But if I look at when they came out, there's a 3-year gap, which means that it was 3 years where I watched Pirates of the Caribbean 1 for 3 years with nothing else. So I know it too well. I'm not able to like appreciate. You know what's something crazy that occurred to me as I was watching 4 after I'd watched 1, 2, 3? Is there were moments where I'm like, oh, I'm in. And then I was like, it's because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The only things I remember is he has a sword. And, because I go, fuck.
Yeah.
He has a sword and he goes, huh! And then ropes come out. But I got to that bit and I was like, I remember being like, I shat so much on this movie. And as soon as it started, after having watched 3, and I was just into the world, and I wanted more. And I think that's the thing as well with 2 and 3. It's not as strong as 1. But fuck, I'd hate if we just had one Pirates movie.
Yeah.
I honestly want a 6th movie. I want a 7th movie. I want to get to the point where we get back to like an 8th or 9th movie and it's back to like you know what I mean? I want it to come all the way back.
2 and 3 embrace and expand on the mythology in all the best ways, and give us, you know, pirate lords and Davy Jones and more magic, but it keeps it kind of mysterious still, and plays with the concepts and ideas that we're familiar with about pirates, but never like steps too far out, I guess. I mean, it does.
What's
go to the end of the world.
Nah, that's fucking sick, bro.
It is.
And it's sick because the end of the world is literally like a waterfall, which for a pirate is like, I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like I never really think about things sometimes. Whereas like I was watching it this time and it cuts to him in the desert and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, it's like things can be so simple and that's why they're good. You know, like cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah.
I don't know, it reminds me of watching like an American Horror Story or whatever, where it's like the character's like, this is my hell. And I'm like, yeah, because you're that type of person. That's your hell. It's basic, it's simple, it's not clever, but why would it be clever?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My reoccurring nightmares, which I'm not going to get into, are so obvious because of my life. And I look at them and go, oh my God, I'm so... You know what?
Yeah.
He's a pirate. He loves... Oh, no, it doesn't matter about a pirate. He loves freedom and the ocean. And what the ocean gives him is being able to just move and have that wind. You know what he does when he lands off the boat? There's no wind. I was generally like, oh, that's fucked. And it's stupid and over the top and big, but if you just take away all that stuff and like, I think it's really...
No, it is. It's great.
Really cool and powerful.
I like the third one maybe more than the second because it takes risks and is weirder. But I understand why the second one... The second one is simpler because it's... I mean, the Kraken is such this looming, gigantic
It's
threat.
not even in the movie until an hour and a half in there. It's so...
I know.
And Davy Jones isn't in for almost over an hour. Like, I don't know if... I feel like the movie doesn't get enough... It's so restrained. I just think... I don't know. I don't know if three's... It's not like three's not restrained, but... I don't know, man. I feel two's like maybe my favorite one. But I feel like when I say that, I'm like, it's not. Because I know one is better.
Only because it leans on everything else so much. Like, 2 is nothing without 1 and 3. Really.
But then what is...
Whereas Empire is Empire.
But I would argue, without... Like, if it just ended on Empire and that was it, you'd be like... Oh, no, that's not... No, because I was going to say the same with Dead Man's Chest. You'd be left going... What the fuck with the end?
But, like, Dead Man's Chest is
it's
not...
part 2. Empire is a standalone part 2.
And it's better than the first part. Dead Man's Chest is not better.
It's only better for me because I like Kraken and I like Green, and it's way
There
greener.
are elements that are better, but it's not as tight.
No.
It's not as succinct. It's not as clean. It's not as well thought out. But it is bigger and longer, and we get more of the characters we love, and everything is more.
I don't know. There's a bit... I just feel like... I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but there's something so insane about that moment when they get there, and they're like... They get this chest, and they're like... Oh my god, it's real? And he's like, hey, why doesn't anyone fucking trust me? I'm Jack Sparrow. Then Will rocks up, he's like... For good reason, you son of a bitch. He's like, how'd you get here? He's like, fucking sea turtles, you can't. That's a great reference. Because it's like, how did he get here?
Yeah.
Because he looks around, he's like, what the? There's no ship. Because Davy Jones' ship is sunken. I don't know. There's something so great about that moment. And then she's like, stop fighting everybody, bloody pirates. And I don't know. The music, and I also very much enjoy the recurring gag of pirates yelling at other pirates saying... bloody pirates. Like that self-loathing of like when the pirates steal the ship, and he's like, those pirates are stealing our pirate ship, bloody pirates. And it's like, I just love that. I usually hate self-loathing things when you're like, if you're a spaceman, you don't like other spacemen, it's like, what's wrong with you? Like your own, I don't know. But I love that pirates all hate other pirates. Yeah. I don't know. I love that reoccurring joke. It's so fun and so stupid.
What do you want out of another Pirates movie?
Oh my god.
Because I think I want it stripped back and simpler, and I don't want to say more in line with the first film. In some areas, yes, but I also wanted to really embrace the mythology like the second and third film do, and
I think they've really
recontextualize the mythology. Like, Davy Jones is different than we've ever seen him, and the mythology is different than we've ever seen it.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
You're taking the thing and repackaging it, whereas they never quite do that as well again after.
No, they pick Blackbeard and they go, oh, magic boat and sword, and then someone's like, ropes? There's ropes on boats. What if the ropes are
You should
evil?
have been like, you can get out and never come back to
No,
Disney.
he's like, you know what? Ropes are a great idea. And he picks up a rope and then he just murders him. He's like, just strangles him, throws him on the ground, and they're all like, okay, now we're going to come up with better ideas.
I think you deal with the natural progression of what was going on in this era,
The government?
in this time period. Well, no, they've already dealt with the
Okay, yeah, so you get rid of the East Indian
I think you go with
Company.
slavery, which is a huge thing going on. People are being
Black Sails do a really interesting thing with that.
People
actually,
are
in
being
their final
shipped
season.
around this whole area at this time. I think you start the next film with the Black Pearl and Jack Sparrow shipping slaves to the Americas.
Wait,
Yeah.
he's a slave?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
weird.
you don't like it. Oh, wow, this character's dark now. He's doing questionable shit. And then we sink the Black Pearl in the opening scene because he's done the unforgivable thing.
So he's crossed the line.
You get your
punished?
and
Okay,
it's sunk by the slave turned pirate Solomon, the real life guy. I've already I pitched this to you a long time ago. But there's
Black Sails use him, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. But I remember you explaining what they did in that show, and I was like, they didn't go far enough.
No. They really only just go, hey, he's a character, but they're too focused on their main characters, and they do a really good job with them. But
you
he's
take
an
that
element they bring in.
mythology and you Davy Jones it.
Alright,
You make it
that's
magical and crazy and cool. You give him a little bit of a backstory. He's the new villain and he has to do something big to start off with. And
So that's interesting because aspect of piracy they kind of do a bit of it, but they don't really. But it's like a lot of the piracy that came was from ex-slaves, and they're like, "Fuck this shit, let's go murder and kill everyone on boats." And it's just like I'm not gonna say it's all cool, but it's like, if I went and did that, you'd be like, "Whoa, bro!" But if I was a slave and did that, you'd at least understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
That's why all great villains are understandable, not necessarily agreeable.
Is why this character is just ripe for mining. Like it's there
Because
for you
he's
to write the
very,
story. It's also the times we're in now. Everyone's woke and everyone's social justicey, and
So,
you've got your elements there to make this villain like the best villain ever.
As well as 4 and 5 have a big issue of taking away his greyness. 4 and 5 feel very much season 5 to 8 of Thrones with Tyrion and Jon Snow, where it's like they're really grey in the books. Or have I got to the end? Maybe they'll become white. They won't. They'll be fucking grey as fuck. Yeah. That's why they're fucking in the situations they're in. Mm-hmm. The reason Jon's murder is totally different. He's a fucking selfish idiot. Yeah. He's like everything.
He's been writing long enough to know that we know it'll be good.
Let's shake it out. But it's like, he's so grey in the first one, where it's like his motivations at every point are quite... I almost found it difficult to remember that, because he becomes more polished. And I think especially in 4 and 5, he's our hero. We don't have... I don't know, he's not the element... in the first movie, it's about Will and Elizabeth. And he's just there as a chaos engine, just like...
And he's
just like a...
he feels dirty.
There's like a moment here or there where he just goes, "I'm gonna kill you." Like at the start of the movie. This is what I'm talking about when I said the script is just perfect. And I'm like, I can't tell. He's like, get out of my way. And he's like, no. He's like, fuck, this bullet wasn't meant for you. Brilliant foreshadowing. Because it's so quick and so just there. And it's just something he'd say. He doesn't need to contextualize it. And Will's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But it's like, he so doesn't want to kill him. But he's going to kill him.
One part in the second film where I feel like Jack's character is really spot on. Mm-hmm. And it's a really nice little just encapsulation of what I love about the characters and the world and the setting, is when Elizabeth traps Jack on the Pearl, handcuffs him to the boat, and he kind of spits at her like, calls her a pirate. Because she is, and that's what she's on the road to becoming. Because, essentially piracy is dishonesty and theft and freedom and autonomy and all of these things.
But it comes with a price.
And when she pays that, she is essentially the reason he's killed. And
she murders him. If you put someone on a train track and let them not able to escape the train track, it's not the train that kills them, it's you.
Yeah.
She murdered him.
Yeah, Batman from Batman Begins. You murdered Ross.
That is so good, yeah. That is exactly what I mean. That's the perfect... I didn't kill him. No, you fucking murdered the fuck out of that guy. You psycho. And he's walking away all guilty free. He's like, oh my god, oh no, what a tragedy. Then I completely did. You monster. Love it.
But the moments like that in these movies of these which I don't really think that they... Maybe that there needed to be a scene in the third one where they paid those two off a little bit more. Like, for her to do that to him, I feel like maybe there just should have been one scene in the next movie.
Where he's like, fuck you, bitch. Rather than being like, you're the queen of all kings.
You're a fucking pirate now. You deserve to be king of the pirate. Just something like that.
It was almost spiteful.
Yeah.
I think...
But he's a little too... Maybe Jack is the weakest in the third movie as a character. And that's where we really lose the character, is in that third movie. He's so in his own head and doing his own thing. He's not even really a part of the movie. There's the rest of the movie going on.
There could be maybe too much movie to fit in the personal journey that he goes through in 1 and 2. Because in 3, he does, he's like, hey, Beckett, oh bloody, I'll do this and that. And then at the end, when they're doing the 3 when they walk up on the ocean beach, and he's like,
I love he's in a bucket. Davy Jones is in a
Yeah,
bucket. Because we've established he can teleport and he can't stand on land. So I love the idea that Beckett's like, we got a meeting here. Can you come? And he's like, if you put a bucket there, I can teleport there.
but it's not actually what happens.
No.
Because there's a bucket, and then there's subsequent smaller buckets behind him.
Is there?
Yeah, there
I
is.
didn't notice
Because
that.
because that's my favorite bit. That now is not a bit I enjoy.
Oh.
Because the
So
visual
he
of
walked
that
from
scene
bucket to
is that
bucket.
Beckett is like, and then Davy Jones from the water is like, step into the first bucket, second, third, then final bucket, to then stand there. I don't know. I
You
kind
don't
of
like that?
I don't.
You just made me like it more. And you're like,
Okay,
I like it less.
I just feel like maybe
I
I
just-
see that, I'm like, that's pretty fun.
When
and
I
stuff.
saw the bucket there, my initial thought is, that doesn't make sense.
It's
How
a
did he get there?
self-serious-
Oh yeah, he can teleport. But then you saying that
No,
there's
no,
more
no,
buckets,
there's
they thought even a step beyond me.
Yeah, I just feel like that scene is maybe too serious. The film is. I think the film has gotten to the point where we're in the third act, and there's no time for Voldemort hugging Draco. We're in Lord of the Rings territory. There's no jokes now. It's all war. And
It's
something
a lot of
about that
jokes.
is like, that is so fucking stupid. And then even to the point where he's like, we'll switch, and Draco's like, I don't want to be over here. And then Beckett even moves away, so the Johnny Depp has to be next to Davy Jones. Then he steps forward, and Johnny Depp's like, oh, I'm near the Squid Man. The Squid Man's like, I'm a Squid Man, squids. I felt like it was staging and blocking in the most basic way, where it's like,
Three shot, yeah.
I don't know. I used to fucking love it. The idea of him being a bucket made me laugh so much. Something about it. The movies. No, you know what it is? Every time we do a fucking podcast, every time I'm driving home and I'm like,
Forgot to say
my
this.
least favorite part of the movie. I'm so angry. It's always for the Joker, which I will never reveal. And that's the end of the Joker. The end of the Joker is so fucking dumb. What do you mean? Who are you talking to at that? Oh, I hate it so much. In this bit, it cuts to the beach, and they're there, and they're three of them walking on this strip of beach in between the two places, and it's just like wailing guitar, just wailing away, like it's in a.
It's like a sweeping shot.
Oh my god! Oh my. Having music that doesn't fit your movie is egregious. It's
Egregious.
it's a reference to
Is
a
it?
part of the third. Yeah, the end of the third movie. He's like, women, I'm so angry about my boat. I'm going to tell you everything I disagree that I said I agreed with you before. He's like, it's this, and you say egregious like this, and yeah. You just if you remember the movies we were talking about.
I don't.
I'm being a dick, you know.
It was
But
like
it's-
the bootstrap part. Yeah.
It makes me so angry. My brain just didn't connect the dots. Yeah. Also, the fact
I
that
feel
he's the guy who runs naked in Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
I've always hated him for so much because he's so gross to me. Like it's like when I used to watch stop motion as a kid. I hated it. Now it's one of my favorite art forms.
Really?
Yeah, it's just that's why horror
It
and
didn't
gore.
trick you.
No. It was too much. I hate it. Like gore, I don't want to see a single drop of blood until I was like 13, and then I was like, oh my god,
Give me it all.
give me all the gore. Yeah, and I don't know. Probably Tarantino was one of those kind of gateway drug movie directors or
Kill Bill.
something. Kill Bill for sure. But I think just elements of things that I found too much as a kid are the things that I latch onto now, like monsters and creatures and tentacle monsters. I couldn't handle it, but then it's like that's just the things I like to see now. That's neither here nor there, but I don't know, that fucking wailing guitar stuff, I just feel like
I know exactly though.
no, it's fucking atrocious. That was the moment where I'm like, I should write that down, so I just remember, because there's so many little bits where I'm like, oh, okay, I have things to say about every second of everything ever when I actually realize it, but that was like, it's just I don't know, it's just so fucking annoying when the soundtrack is 99 out of 100, the whole, like, it was 10 out of 10 always, and you come to this one bit, and I just don't understand the choice there.
So it goes Pirates 1 at the top, then 2, then 3.
But I'd probably like if you were like, let's watch a Pirates movie right now, I'd say let's watch 2.
Yeah.
I want to watch 2.
2 is the one maybe that you're in from the beginning and in all the way till the end the most.
The thing about 2 that works for me is you don't have to introduce any of the main boys. The movie starts and they're talking and you don't have to sum anything up. They just talk because there's been a whole movie of setup.
Yeah.
And I think this movie especially does the job of setting stuff up in terms of like, Davy Jones gets introduced, Beckett gets introduced, but they feel like I don't know, they're both characters Johnny Depp's already interacted with, and we know that from interactions before they're revealed. So when they're actually revealed, Beckett's revealed right at the start, but I don't know.
Davy Jones is like 50 minutes.
It's like an hour into the movie, but he's been set up like 5 times as someone Johnny Depp's had interactions with. So it doesn't, I don't know, I feel like it's just the heavy lifting. It's like why I like Avengers 2. It's like the heavy lifting is being done. We just get to have a fun adventure with them, and it's all that. And that's why it feels maybe a bit longer. No, actually, I don't think it does. I think 3, I remember at one point being like, I'm watching a lot of movie, and I remember looking at my computer, just like a little tap quickly, and I was like, 45 minutes left.
I'd say
It's a bit long.
I actually feel like the third one, just watching it this time, the second one felt like it was the longest.
Oh, okay.
I feel like there's just a lot more going on in the third one. Like, by the time we're past the first act, they've literally gone to the end of the world and come back.
You're right.
And they're already on to the next thing, and we're into the and then the second act, like the third act starts and the battle hasn't started. Like the battle is like the whole third act. Really.
Yeah. It's a huge second.
So there's like so much that happens over the course of the third movie if you like list it all out. Whereas the second movie, really a Kraken attacks 2 ships.
Yeah.
And they kind of move around a bit, but there's not a whole lot. I guess they go from...
Well, it's Island 1, they go lady, they go to the second island, they have a big 6 versus 6 fight, and they're all like... there's so much stuff there that's just like, there's so much going on with that action set piece. I just think it's so fantastic how many, I don't know, I've never enjoyed so many people just running about for a MacGuffin. And I think that's what occurs to me this time. Seeing it as like this basic format of like A, B, C, and they're just like pushing them around and there's this key, and then the key becomes a heart. I don't know,
the dynamic of the second movie is works because every character, you know exactly what they want, what they need to do to get it.
And everyone's opposed to each other for just the tiniest reason. I don't know. I think it's probably one step from being too much MacGuffining. But I don't know. I've never seen it like that. I feel like maybe when I first saw this movie, MacGuffin was not a word to me. It was just they need the key because the key opens the chest. Yeah. I hadn't realized that that's what most movies are. People trying to obtain objects that don't matter. And I think this movie makes me think they do matter. Like, the heart to me fully matters, to the point where the character who gets it at the end, I don't know, that is also something that I think was really fascinating to me. It's like, the movie ends and Jack Sparrow's dead. All your heroes are sad because he's dead, and are like, we're fucked. And your antagonist is fucked. Because the other antagonist...
became the big antagonist.
Yeah, and he's now the main villain, and that becomes true, because Davy Jones, they kill him and stuff, but it's like a tragic kind of...
Yeah.
I don't know, he's almost on his own little thing at that point, where he's just betrayed by the one he loves, and he's just a monster. I don't know, but he's not like Beckett, who's like, I just think that works really nicely in terms of like having every single character except for Beckett is at their lowest point. And even Norrington, he thinks that he's at his highest point, but it's kind of his lowest because he's made the wrong decision. That's going to eventually kill him because he realizes he's made the wrong decision. And to make the right decision, that will cost him his life. Yeah. He kind of reminds me at the end of the season.
And if he makes the wrong decision again, he can save his life, but be forever indebted to a cursed life.
Which I think from where he's built up to,
he would definitely make that decision he made.
Yeah.
I believe.
I wouldn't like it if he's like, I love being a squid boy. You know? Yeah. Like, even visually, that idea doesn't work.
The only reason I said that he might get short shrift is...
He's not in it?
Yeah, maybe that's all it is. It's like, maybe because the character works so well, and I am invested in everything going on here, that you could have held that off till the final battle, and you could have given him a little bit more to to say or do,
But
it doesn't matter.
does a really well executed movie need to make big calls?
No.
Early? Oh,
Yes and no. I
Okay.
mean, it depends.
no. Sorry, totally. Every film
was
has
a
its own.
rhetorical
No.
question.
Yeah. It was. Sorry, it was.
Did I
That's why I was like,
actually
oh, I don't even know what to say now. You son of a bitch. My point was, he's the main character of one. He's in two, but doesn't come in for like a full hour, and he's just kind of this crazy element, but then becomes a huge part of the final act, where it's three of them fighting over the heart, and then he wins. But his win is a shallow life. It's like, we don't need to see him being commander and not enjoying it. We totally get that he doesn't, because his first scene, he arrives and he's like, I hope your girlfriend gets fucking killed with every other pirate. And he's like, oh, and he looks at the dad and his dad's like, oh. And they pick the wrong side. That's it, I don't need it anymore. And then he appears and he's like, hey, Elizabeth. And she's like, fuck you picked the wrong side. He's like, oh, fuck. And then the next scene, he's like, hey, I picked the right side. Then he dies. I don't know, I don't want more. I love that so much. It's so fucking tragic.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason it's properly tragic is because Will's fucking dad murders him. He's like, fuck you! You don't know what your son's trying... Yeah, actually, no, that's why. If it was a random, I'm not as strong. But these two are kind of these two peripheral main characters.
Both tragic.
Both super tragic, and one's gonna get fucking redeemed. But he gets to murder the other guy before. And it's... I don't know, that's... that scene where he's like, go! And she's like, ah! And that thing, and he's like, oh, fuck! And then he gets stabbed. It's so brutal. Like, I really like Norrington. I think that his arc is just kind of surprising to me. It's not what I would have expected them to do. The safe thing in 2, I feel, is to just make him... We'd see the chase. That'd be 2, I feel. Maybe that's why I love it. That he rocks up, he's like, I'm a pirate now. You're like, what? What happened? You went through a hurricane or something? I don't know. I love trying to figure out why I love it. Man, like, I don't even... It's just there. And I guess it's maybe... I don't know. I like killing characters before the end. I think you kill someone in the last 20 minutes of your movie. Like killing Tony Stark at the end, but the movie's over. It's over. But that's the same as all endings that are stretched to the point of, like Game of Thrones. It's like if it had been a 3-season show, you couldn't have the potential that it built.
Well, Endgame had to write itself out of a hole with no idea how it was going to do it. Whereas Pirates 2 and 3, it seems a lot clearer to me that they worked their ending out and then probably built.
They did everything at once in a way.
Well, yeah, they had to have. With how the movies play out, you know that. I mean, they planned it out.
2 and 3 is one movie.
For sure.
They split.
Which I think I like that more.
Then what?
I guess it depends.
Wait, are we talking about Infinity War Endgame?
Yeah, both.
Comparison?
I mean, just the comparison between the two is that, like, Endgame...
I like Pirates more than Marvel. I think it's way tighter.
Endgame is them trying to dig themselves out of a hole that is, like, just so ridiculous. Like, half the universe gone. Like...
The stakes have all been lost when you get that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for instance, stakes, world building, world scale, Endgame was like, killed everyone. And then you've got a scene where Captain America's, like, talking to 5 guys, and he's like, we're all gonna keep fighting or whatever. Sure. Pirates are so much better in a way. The start of your final fucking movie, the end of your trilogy, the darkness has loomed. Everyone's dead but Beckett. He's got the Kraken now. Well, we don't know he's killed him. But, you know, it's like he's got that power. What do we start with? Let's start with just murdering 100 fucking pirates.
It's just again and
It's
again.
a montage.
The way they drop and then it cuts.
It's brutal, and it also
Really good.
it's brutal, but it still is for kids because they don't drop and hold them feet twitching and you know what I mean? It's like because I remember I was
The older you get, the more brutal it seems.
because
almost.
it's so like, but it also doesn't hold on in a way that makes you go, well, you can't show this to a 6-year-old because I'm not saying these are for kids, but I think that because I saw it at such a young age and it really opened my eyes to the possibilities of film. It was like Lord of the Rings and Pirates were like the things that made me go, oh my god, movies are real and good and they should be
another horror director directing a big budget tentpole thing.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I think horror though is a great first to go to just because it's cheap and budget. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's
also
always easier to make it on a lower scale of money.
And that and making it at a small scale but making it seem much larger than it is. these filmmakers do seem to be very, very effective at stretching the budget. Which I guess when you're spending $100 million or $200 million, you need to make sure that
You're actually getting the money.
it's not a dude just blowing. Yeah, like
I don't know. Yeah, because I feel like
essentially what they're doing is they're going, we have $100 million and you have 4 action sequences.
scary.
And then you have to link them all together. That's what a movie is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Especially
like
a
3
big
or 4
blockbuster
sequences
spectacle kind of thing.
that you get. Like you get your pirate ship battle, and then you get your treasure cove and your other thing. You know, you do 3 things here.
Yeah, they got Cannibal Island, Kraken attacks.
And
Everyone's fighting over a
Yeah.
wheel.
Yes. You get your things, and then you got to
Yeah.
string them together, and you got to make it all cohesive, and that's essentially, and that's what you're doing in a horror movie. It's just that your spectacle is not big 2 ships coming at each other in a big battle. It's
It's the creepy man stabbing defenseless
stabbing
poor
pigskin and
person.
then blood spraying
Yeah.
through. And let's make it look real.
A thing I think is really cool as well is that they have the motif of the song from the ride. Yo ho, yo ho,
Oh yeah,
pirates.
yeah.
That's from
Yeah,
the.
oh, yeah.
I'm literally
Well, just
presuming
the
it's from the.
most classically pirate thing. I
Yeah,
guess,
I'm just presuming it's from the ride. Now I'm like, is that just a piratey thing? Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't. Honestly, Pirates of the Caribbean is so good. I don't care what it's from. It's Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's its own
The end of the
thing.
movie is like really bad eggs. Yo ho, me hearties yo ho. Or it's like drink up me. What is it like? Drink up me hearties yo ho or whatever he says.
Yeah.
And he just closes the comment. It's like it's such a beautiful little end. 2's got the tragic. And then Bobo's like, I'm alive, bitches. Where's my ship or whatever, cunts? And then the third one, he's back on his little dingy boat. He's been betrayed. It's all been reset. But in a beautiful, everything matters way. You got to be careful when you reset things, not to make sure it's not pointless. You know?
But a character like that, it feels right.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And when 4 starts, I'm generally like, this is where he'd be. He'd just be doing more shit.
Yeah.
But like, he's then on the boat singing that song again. It's like, drink up me hearties yo ho.
What do you want from him as a character after the trilogy? What do you want him to go?
Honestly, 4 is so close to being exactly what I'd want. It's a movie where he's a standalone. Gibbs gets a little bit. He gets introduced to a side, sexy female version of him that used to be his love interest. That's tricked Blackbeard, who's a magic pirate. And they're after the Fountain of Gold. Also, there's some Spanish fucking dudes coming after us who have this whole different vibe. There are evil mermaids. There are zombies. It's... On paper, it's the greatest movie I've ever heard. And it's taking away all the elements that I'm done with. Will and Elizabeth's story is done. It's done because they're all the main characters. But you know what else was the main thing? Johnny Depp happened to bring the element of that side guy and make, I don't know, and that's why I can watch 4. And honestly, I mean, that's Friday. I might hang out with some mates later. But if I just go home, I'm going to watch the end of 4. Almost for curiosity, but just because I'm in at this point.
Maybe it's that it becomes...
It's not good, though.
A formula. That's the problem. Is that
Good phrasing.
What we liked about... I mean, the first one, he sails away with the ship.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So it's like... The guy who started with nothing now has the thing he wants and gets to sail away.
Oh, it's a totally...
Then the second movie, we kill him. He sends him to Davy Jones' locker.
Yeah.
We send him to his own personal hell.
Yeah.
And then
A
he
big
has
old
to be,
desert.
has to be rescued, and then everything is reset again, and then we leave him going off to find the Fountain of Youth. And
That's a great way to end it forever. I've been happy with 3, for sure.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, why
then
not have 10 more movies?
Bring him back again, and then where do you leave him at the end of that film? I think that's probably what the ultimate problem with 4 and 5 are, is that we're just hitting reset each time.
Yeah.
And whether he has
And
the boat or doesn't have the boat now
Who
feels
cares?
very inconsequential.
Yeah, no,
Him getting it back
100%.
never feels earned or great.
It's
not like it felt in 3 when he got when they got him back, you know? Like it
And then
took
he's
something.
like, hey, this is my boat. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Who are you? Oh, you're Rams? Come with me, it's all good. And then Barbossa's like, where are you going, Jack boy? With the map, and it's like, he's like, oh, well, fuck you gotta come too then, don't you?
Yeah.
But he's got it back. Also, the banter between him and Barbossa on the boat, when they're sailing back through Purgatory, is very Angel and Spike.
Oh.
In Angel Season 5.
That's
the greatest season of any TV show like that. I'm not saying like Lost, but like a show that's just week by week we fight a baddie monster.
Yeah.
And then it's all good at the end. because it has that same like him and Barbossa are doing stupid gags with like, oh, my dick's bigger than yours.
It's
or
so
whatever.
Spike and Angel.
It's very Spike and Angel, but
the pirate version of Vampire.
Fucking, there's something about, I don't know what that type of character who's so like, I'm the brooding alone thing, but then you have him fight against the same.
Yeah.
And then they realize
they're so different, but they're not.
They're
really.
exactly the same, but they're so different that they grate each other in that way. And I think Angel and Buffy,
Angel and Spike.
Sorry, it's Angel and Spike have that same almost thing where in the past one of them was kind of above the other when they used to be back in the olden days, and they have that same thing where Barbossa and him were pirates together. Barbossa fucked him over, but so there's always that like Barbossa has a bit more authority and Jack Sparrow's a bit more fun and whimsical.
Yeah.
But they're both, I don't know. It's like they're not good gags, but I love that stuff. Like there's a bit where he's like, look, my thing's so much bigger than yours. It's like, that's just a shitty dick joke. But I'm just in, because I love it all.
Speaking of dick jokes, there's the visual pun in the second film when Johnny Depp is talking to Elizabeth, and there's the sexual tension, and he's standing with a cannon right in front of him. He's literally framed like this with a cannon there.
Really?
And then in the third movie, when Geoffrey Rush gets up to talk to all the pirates, he literally has chains with 2 balls.
Oh, I remember that bit. And Johnny Depp
like
looks at the balls and says a joke?
Yeah. There's so many things like that. When you see the scene in the second film where Jack and Elizabeth are talking,
I don't
it's
know
him
how
standing in front of the cannon, her looking at it and literally commenting, being like, you know, like, it's so obvious that the fact I didn't see it until just this time watching it, I was like, I'm an idiot. How did I not?
It's one of those things where you're probably just like looking at something weird, like, I often find that something I don't notice, I'm like, oh, because in the scene, I'm just so focused on this aspect of it. Or there's something about this scene that makes me go, this is when I check my phone for that beep I heard, that text 20 minutes ago. And I just quickly go, and then I look back up. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or that's when I look down.
That's when I needed a drink, and I was listening still. But,
and suddenly I've not looked at 10 seconds of the screen, because and then you've missed some weird, terrible joke that could destroy the film for someone else. So another thing that I thought was really fun, it was just a thing, and I don't even know why, but it's like, it's an imagery thing of these movies, is having the camera do it like on this side, and Jack Sparrow be this, getting slapped and being like, to the close of the camera, like, and it's just, there's something about that, and then they have a reoccurring one when someone's like, hey, have you met Jack? And she's like, oh yeah, send him a message. Slap! And I'm like,
it's Will,
Yeah, it's like, I think there's like those little fun elements, the big it really does so much right. And then I feel like I've not talked about it enough, and I feel like this is my main thing and everything. The music is the greatest thing ever. It is so inspiring. Oh my god, I'm so glad I remembered. So Hans Zimmer and Klaus Badelt, or whatever his name is, it is a fucking, like, iconic, like the dun 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 dun. It's like that music is so iconic. It's Pirates of the Caribbean. And you know what it's from? It's from Gladiator.
Oh.
You're gonna put some footage up, sorry. With the music and the things, and there's a gladiator battle, and it's like dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. It's like dun 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 dun. You know, it's just,
is Gladiator Hans Zimmer too?
Yeah. It's just, and that is why before when you said Klaus Bennett did season 1 and he did season 2 and 3 movies, sorry, whatever. That, the only reason I said Hans Zimmer must have had a part is because he made Gladiator, and Gladiator, I just remember watching Gladiator, and I was just like, I bet you no one who loves Gladiator and thinks Pirates sucks would agree that it's better than Gladiator. It is kind of weird to hear it in Gladiator now, but maybe that's just because it's the most iconic piratey thing in the world, for me at least. It is so ingrained in what, like just the way it's like, dun, 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 it just feels so in tune to the way the swords are thin and like they go dun, 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 dun. Like the amount of times I spent in the last 2 days just walking up and down my house, just being like singing the music and just dancing away with my sword and just feeling it's so good. I don't get that in Gladiator, mostly because it's a dour movie of dourness. It's not as fun, but it has the same music and it doesn't fit in the same way. It's great music and a great scene. It's in a few scenes. Pretty sure it's at the start battle sequence. and one of the gladiator battles. There's a lot. Something was, they were gladiating. Final thoughts.
I love the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. It is a trilogy. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
100%.
I'm not a fan of the standalone following sequels.
What about the bit where they shoot sharks like torpedoes and then the shark jumps in slow motion and Jack Sparrow's like, because that's pretty.
It makes me sad that I've so staunchly defended 2 and 3 for so many years of my life, only to be proved wrong again and again by them making 4 and 5.
No. I feel like that justifies our opinion that 2 and 3 are amazing. Because trust me, compared to 4 and 5, they haven't sunk from 1. Everyone thinks 1 is this thing above 2 and 3. Where I think because of 4 and 5, they've accidentally, by pushing them under, have lifted 2 and 3.
That's
unintentional.
That's what I feel like whenever someone complains about 2 or 3, all of their complaints they list are my complaints for 4 and 5.
Yeah. That's a succinct, perfect way to put it.
Jack, it doesn't, like, people are like, oh, he becomes the main character in 2 and 3, which I just disagree with.
He doesn't
He's
at all.
part of an ensemble cast, exactly like the first movie. 4 and 5, yes! 4, yeah!
Oh, God,
like, he's the main character now. You're right about that complaint in 4 and 5. I agree. I want to argue with... Yeah, let's go fight Disney
Let's
together.
all go beat the shit out of them!
Yeah, I get it, but you're wrong about 2 and 3. There is too much, maybe. We could trim here and here out of 2 and it might be a shorter
All
film.
2 hour, 40-minute movies could probably be trimmed.
For sure. Absolutely. If 2 was a tighter movie, I feel like people would look on it a lot more favorably. I think there's enough in 2 that you could trim out, I think, to make it better without losing anything I love. And it's just shots here and there where you've tried to pad this scene out where it doesn't need to be, and that adds up to a lot of movie when you really boil it down. And it stops me being as invested as maybe in 1 I'm floored by how expertly the script plays
fucking out of control
and just delivers things so cleanly and
just quickly, the gold Aztec coins look so fucking cool.
Falling.
The bit where he drops the 2 into the thing at the end, like
when they repeat that shot in the 3rd movie,
but with the world's end,
but with the other coin, but I was like, yeah, you did that because that imagery from the first movie is so iconic. You had to do it again.
Okay.
Because this is Pirates of the Caribbean now, and a falling coin into a thing is this.
Yeah.
Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.